Okay, you are live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Poway Unified School Board of Education on November 18th, 2021. The time is 6:01. Notice to all, this meeting may be recorded or broadcasted at the direction of the board, and the recording or broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Now I invite you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we move to 3.2, report out of closed session. Dr. Patel.
Thank you, Madam President. Closed session began at 4:04 p.m. The Board of Education took the following action in closed session. 2.1a, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number ADR 1007-2021, on a motion by O'Connor-Ratcliffe and a second by Zane, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement. The vote of the board was as follows: ayes 4, noes 0, absent 0, abstention 0, recusal 1. 2.1b, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number OAH 2021-060399, on a motion by Zane and a second by O'Connor-Ratcliffe, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement. The vote of the board was as follows: ayes 5, noes 0, absent 0, abstention 0. 2.1c, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number OAH 2021-080374, on a motion by Zane and a second by O'Connor-Ratcliffe, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement. The vote of the board was as follows: ayes 5, noes 0, absent 0, abstention 0. 2.1d, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number OAH 2021-060669, on a motion by Zane and a second by Couvrette, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement. The vote of the board was as follows: ayes 5, noes 0, absent 0, abstention 0. 2.1e, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number OAH 2021-080421, on a motion by O'Connor-Ratcliffe and a second by Couvrette, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement. The vote of the board was as follows: ayes 5, noes 0, absent 0, abstention 0. 2.1f, in the matter of conference with legal counsel pending existing litigation, case number OAH 2021-080326 and OAH 2021-050695, on a motion by Zane and second by O'Connor-Ratcliffe, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement. Vote of the board was as follows: ayes 5, noes 0, absent 0, abstention 0. In all other matters, there is nothing else to report. Closed session adjourned at 5:02 p.m. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. We move to 3.3, members in attendance. We have all 6 board members in attendance. 3.4, welcome to the public. Ms. Sue.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Board of Education. PUSD has moved to live public comments via Zoom and is no longer accepting written comments to be read aloud during board meetings. This process has been revised effective December 10th, 2020. Public speakers are requested to fill out a public speaker form via https:/bit.ly/PUSD speaker slip. The speaker request form submitted between 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. today received instruction on how to join via Zoom or by telephone. Individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, and there is a 15-minute time limit per topic. When time is up, your microphone will be muted. Written comments were also submitted via bit.ly/PUSD written comments until 6 p.m. today. Written comments will not be read aloud during the meeting, but will be provided to the board members. Written comments are limited to 400 words. Please be advised that any communications directed to the Poway Unified School District, including board members and district staff, are subject to disclosure pursuant to the California Public Records Act. Communications will not be edited for redactions except in compliance with state law. Item 4.2 is placed on our agenda to enable members of our community to bring items that are not placed anywhere else on the agenda to the board's attention. The Brown Act does not permit board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, but your concerns will be referred to staff. With that said, welcome and thank you for your comments.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to 3.5, which is an action item, the approval of the agenda sequence. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Zane. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Dr. Seitzma. And this is a vote for you, our student board member. How does everyone vote? Ayes? We have 6-0. Now we move on to 4.0 oral presentations. 4.1 is information from our student board representatives. One of my favorite parts. We're going to start with Alvin Lee from Del Norte High School.
Good evening, board members. My name is Alvin Lee, and I am a senior and ASB executive at Del Norte High School. I will be filling in for our president, Gabby Yanetta, today. I will be speaking on how the Nighthawks are college ready, future focused, and globally aware. We just finished the first trimester finals last week and began trimester 2 Monday. College application season is among us, and our 12th graders are working diligently to complete their applications. In order to help our busy 12th graders with their tough workload, our counseling department holds weekly college readiness meetings where they go over tips for applying and requirements for a variety of paths after high school. They've transitioned to holding application writing sessions on Tuesday mornings to help guide our 12th graders through the college process. This week, our peer counselors are working with our food bank club to host their annual food drive to support those in need in our community. Del Norte is staying future focused in every grade and continuing to help students transition from online to fully in-person schooling. For our new 9th graders, we held our second Unity Day. We brought in a speaker, ran fun bonding games, and taught them cheers to chant in the flock. We did this to help them stay optimistic and excited for the next 4 years. For our 10th graders, we held Study and Snack, where our 11th and 12th graders helped them study and prepare for finals over some cookies. We just finished homecoming week, where we reached record-breaking levels not only for ticket sales, but in class participation for float building and spirit days. We would like to thank several board members and cabinet members for being at our homecoming events and participating with us. Students have been jumping at every opportunity to get involved this year, including our Nighthawk ambassadors who recently visited Monterey Ridge to talk to the young students on the importance of exemplifying character counts pillars and being a good person in and out of school. The flock has stayed globally aware, and we are eager to learn more about and better the world around us. Our Student Health and Wellness Center has put on a great Red Ribbon Week this week, and our ASB ran a campaign for National Coming Out Day to help our LGBTQ+ students feel more welcomed and seen on campus. Our Equity Task Force has been introducing more acceptance and awareness lessons in our homeroom schedule and has conducted several student-led panels to promote inclusion, acceptance, and diversity on campus. Bi-weekly, they send out presentations on Heritage Months, multicultural holidays, and ways to be a better Nighthawk to all. ASB has been working with a variety of clubs to help promote them so that every Nighthawk can find a home on campus. Whether it be our Girls in STEM or underwater basket weaving, we have held club rushes and events so that each has the opportunity to share. ASB is currently organizing a winter fundraising event called 10 Days of Giving, giving an opportunity for philanthropic clubs on campus to help raise money for causes and organizations for the holidays. Everyone at Del Norte is so happy and excited to be back for this school year. We hope to keep the feelings of unity and giving throughout the year. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share about life as a Nighthawk, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Alvin. We love to hear what's going on in your school. Next up, we're going to hear from Charlie Highcock from Mount Carmel High School.
Good evening, Poway Unified School Board. My name is Charlie Hickok, and I'm Mount Carmel High School's ASB president. I'm pleased to inform you about the great things happening at Mount Carmel. As trimester 1 came to a close, our school got to look back on the accomplishments and memorable moments every single Sun Devil experienced. Theater at the Mount put on an incredible production, Our Town. Choir had a fall concert, followed by dance team's Mount Carmel Dance Goes to the Movies concert. Band once again has produced an amazing performance this year titled Siren. And as we move into the winter athletic season, many fall sports Sun Devils are still working hard. First off, boys water polo won their CIF championship this past weekend. Cross country has their CIF finals this Saturday. Field hockey played in their CIF quarterfinals Tuesday. And football has their semi-final CIF round this Friday against Ramona as they look to advance to the CIF finals. We kicked off the school year with our back to school pep rally, which took place in the stadium for the first time in Mount Carmel history. The pep rally consisted of performances, introduction of fall athletes, games, and overall an introduction to the underclassmen of the incredible school spirit Mount Carmel holds. Our school continues its tradition of Red Out Fridays every Friday, once again by providing each student a Red Out t-shirt at the beginning of the year. We also expanded our Link Crew program this year to both freshmen and sophomores. So on the first day of school, they were guided around by seniors, finding their classes, meeting staff members, and creating friendships. Sun Devils went up and away to homecoming this fall, as ASB sold a record-breaking 1,244 tickets, where students enjoyed an outdoor dance with movies, root beer floats, and giant foosball. Mount Carmel's variety of clubs have hit the ground running and continue to reach new students weekly. And tomorrow at lunch, we'll have our annual Club Rush, where Sun Devils can learn about all the clubs our student body has to offer. Thank you so much for your support and time. And remember, it's great to be a Sun Devil.
Thank you so much, Charlie. And now we have from Meadowbrook Middle School, Isabella Shellhouse.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Bella Shellhouse, and I'm an 8th grader at Meadowbrook Middle School. I'm also the student body president. I'm so happy to talk about the fun, positive things happening on our campus. One thing we did was start with Hello Week. This was to encourage students to make new friends and be kind. The school had lots of fun signs, banners, and balloons. Throughout the days of Start with Hello Week, kind notes were put on our desks, we were cheered for as we came in, and so many more fun things that made me feel confident and want to be kind to others. A few weeks later, we participated in Red Ribbon Week. The purpose was to create a fun, positive environment with Spirit Days while also raising awareness against drugs. Other October activities were Pink Out Day, supporting breast cancer awareness, and Halloween Dress-Up Day. Both of these events had contests for most spirit. November has been off to a fun start. We hosted our first ever movie night, and the students were so excited we sold out in the first 3 days. We even had to make more tickets. Students and their families all enjoyed their time at one of our first school events this year. Lastly, we are currently holding a canned food drive to help families in need. I've had a blast being back on campus and seeing everyone enjoy Spirit Days and after-school activities along with community service. It feels so nice to be back, mostly normal, and have so much support from everyone at our school. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Isabella. And last but not least, we have Kayla Ricks from Shoal Creek Elementary School.
Hello, my name is Kayla. I'm a 5th grader at Shoal Creek Elementary. Today, I'm here to share the things I like about school. Now that I'm in 5th grade, I can participate in band. I play the flute. One thing that is interesting about my flute is that my flute was my mom's when she was in band as a young girl. My mom kept it all these years in case one of her kids chose to play the flute in band when they are older. Band is super fun, especially with a teacher like Mrs. Pestorero. Mrs. Pestorero is a great band teacher because she is very helpful, kind, and funny. Another thing I enjoy about school is PE. PE is very fun because we get to run. Running helps me with my club soccer team. We also get to play fun sports like handball and kickball. Our coach, Coach Courtney, is a very nice coach. I have lots of fun at PE. Shoal Creek has a before-school activity called Running Club. Running Club is open from 7:55 to 8:15. Each student at Shoal Creek has the opportunity to run around a running track. Every kid has their own card that tracks the number of laps that we have run each time. Volunteers scan the kids' cards on an app on their phone. The students who participate in Running Club receive a necklace with toe tokens on it. Toe tokens are a fun way to keep track of how many miles you run. One of the top prizes is a 50-mile shirt. I've won one or two of those shirts from 2nd or 3rd grade. On the first Friday of every month, we have Friday Flag. This is an outside assembly for the entire school to come and enjoy. At Friday Flag, one teacher named Mr. Jones tells jokes. Some students can say an affirmation. We have a few sayings that some students can say. For example, there is one called "Treat others the way you want to be treated." I have done an affirmation before, and it was very fun but nerve-wracking. At Friday Flag, each class wears their college shirt and performs their college chant. My class represents the University of Las Vegas. Our class is learning our chant. I'm excited to memorize it. One of the best events that our school hosts is called Fall Festival. There is a haunted house and many fun carnival games. One game is called How Fast Can You Pitch a Baseball? I got 35 miles per hour, but it wasn't accurate because it was dark. One of the highest scores was made by my friend Taylor. She got about 85 miles per hour. It is definitely one of the best events of the year. Shoal Creek has the best teachers and staff in the world. The teachers are super kind. They also are super helpful. This year I have Mrs. Brooks. She is new to Shoal Creek this year. She is one of the best teachers I've ever had. Every staff member in Shoal Creek is amazing. We also have a new principal, Mrs. Emoto. She is one of the nicest principals in the whole world. She has made me feel supported when dealing with conflicts at school. She has a video announcement called the Auto Update. Every Monday, the video airs in our classroom. The video has information about upcoming events, birthdays, and Audley Terrifics. Audley Terrifics are a little reward that students receive when they do good things. Everybody loves them. These are some of my favorite things about school. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great evening.
Kayla, that was wonderful from a fellow flautist. So it was great hearing from all of the students. And now we get to hear from our community. We're moving on to 4.2 public comments. Dr. Patel.
Yes, we do have several public comments. I am going to ask Ms. Peck to let them in one by one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Our first public comment, we have quite a few on this one topic, Dr. Patel, and I know that we do have time limits. So would you mind keeping time on this first topic? It is in regards to ethnic studies and ethnic literature.
Ms. Peck, before we get started, I wanted to just let the students know that you're more than welcome to leave the meeting, and I know that you probably have homework.
So just to clarify for our speakers, we have a 15 minutes per topic limit as standard policy.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. This first topic is on ethnic studies and ethnic literature in PUSD. The first speaker will be Erica Rangel. Erica Rangel, go ahead and speak.
Good evening. My name is Erica Rangel, and I teach ethnic lit at Poway High School. I'm calling in tonight to share what we're learning in this course and how I've seen my students grow in the short time that they have been in this class. Students are provided a safe learning space to explore their own identities and how those identities interact with each other and their power or privilege. The authentic conversations allow students to learn and hear from each other from each other towards learning about systems of power, how and why we react the way we do. What place beyond a classroom can students have an open and honest conversation without the preconceived judgment of peers and the greater community? Classrooms serve as the ideal environment to provide socially, racially, and culturally relevant curriculum resources that uplift and unite one another. I guide students toward a greater understanding about cultures in a safe space where they can learn how to engage in respectful discourse with one another versus allowing that student to be faced with the harder teacher, society, college, career, or life. Schools are the cornerstones of communities, and educators play an important role in influencing perceptions and processes. Thus, we are learning how to reflect on our own biases so that we can become more aware of how we interact with others. My role as an ethnic lit teacher is to empower world-class learners and fulfill a mission of inspiring passion and preparing every student to thrive in interactions within schools, our community, and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Nathiel Jackson. Nathiel Jackson, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nathiel Jackson, a senior at Poway High. I am currently in Ethnic Lit 2. Taking Ethnic Lit has been the best decision I've made in regards to my class's senior year. The class has taught me so much about myself, my peers, and the world around us. Our first unit was about identity, and it helped me to figure out more about myself, which has been incredibly valuable while writing college application essays. I'm so much more aware of the social systems that work around me and how they affect people who come from different racial and ethnic backgrounds. The class provides a safe space for us to ask questions about and discuss topics that we aren't able to talk about in other settings. This has been extremely helpful to myself and every other classmate that I've talked to about it. I would recommend this class to anyone who asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathiel. Next is Lindsay Ball. Lindsay Ball, go ahead.
Hello and good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Lindsay Ball, and I'm here tonight as a parent of 2 PUSD students, one in middle school and one in elementary. I want to speak out in support of the board's efforts to make our schools more diverse, equitable, and inclusive places to learn. I know from experience how diversity in education benefits not only people of color and minorities, but also white people like myself. I was privileged to be born white, straight, and cisgender, and I attended majority white primary and secondary schools in my home state of Arkansas. It would have been very easy for me to grow up in a bubble, having very little exposure to anyone not like me. However, I was fortunate to have parents, teachers, and other adults in my life who understood the value of introducing children to diverse perspectives. Reading books like Toni Morrison's Beloved, while shocking and difficult, opened my mind to others' perspectives, and I'm a better, more compassionate person for it. These experiences helped drive my desire to make my community a better place. I'm grateful my children have even more opportunities than I did to learn about perspectives outside their own and to broaden their knowledge of the human experience. For that, I want to thank you, the board, Superintendent Phelps, and everyone working in the PUSD system for your work and dedication, especially in such trying times. Thank you for implementing the ethnic studies courses and integrating a wide range of literature and perspectives into the curriculum. Thank you for your transparency in holding public community conversations on difficult topics such as racial equity. Thank you for hiring professionals such as Dr. Hara to lead these efforts. I'm grateful for all of this and so much more of the work that you're doing. Despite what a very vocal minority would have you believe, our community supports you and appreciates the difficult work you do for our children every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lanice Sechrist. Lanice, go ahead. Lanice,
Can you hear
go
me?
ahead. You're unmuted now. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lanice Sechrist. I'm a PUSD parent. Dr. Patel, you recently participated in a KPBS interview where you mentioned there was a quote. You mentioned there was, quote, a lot of misunderstanding and intentional disinformation being spread around what school districts are doing with critical race theory. That's not something we're teaching in public education. What we're doing is introducing curriculum through the lens of racial equity and justice, end quote. I think this is a topic our community needs to have further discussion about to clear up misunderstanding. I personally don't believe you for a second. What I hear from that statement is you are introducing a divisive curriculum. You're just not calling it critical race theory. Parents might want to consider doing further research into the connection between CRT, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the ethnic studies model curriculum, social emotional learning, and comprehensive sexuality education. Do you have any idea what kind of diverse books are being recommended to middle school children in your district? Like many schools, my child's middle school has a school library catalog on its website. Within that page, there is an option to click on diverse books promoted by Teaching Books. Do you know what books children 11 to 14 years of age can find on this platform? One example is Lawn Boy. It's a book that by page 66 has the F word and the 4-letter S word in it over 40 times. The 4-letter D word to describe a male organ is used repeatedly, and the book includes pedophilia and graphic pornography. Do you really believe that any parent in our district would approve of their children learning about this book through their school? Teaching Books also recommends The Glass Castle, The Berlin Boxing Club, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, Homegoing, and Gender Queer, a Memoir. Have you read these books? Multiple sources claim these books contain one or more of the following: graphic pornography, masturbation, pedophilia, rape, victim shaming, and prostitution, to say the least. Why is it that my child's middle school played the PG-rated Hotel Transylvania movie at Halloween time in consideration of age appropriateness and child safety, but the district is introducing books filled with sexually explicit and dangerous critical theory material to developing minds in the district? I'd like to know who approved Teaching Books. Does the district pay for the link to the material? Does anyone read or vet the books before they are recommended for children? Are these diversity, equity, and inclusion books in the school or classroom libraries for children to check out? It would be great if the district would stop denying critical theory material is being introduced into our schools and start being transparent with parents. Comprehensive sexuality education, social emotional learning, followed by
Ms. Seacrest, your time is up. Next speaker is Chris Henry. Chris, go ahead. It's your turn to speak. Chris, you need to unmute and go ahead and speak.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My name is Chris Henry, and I'm a proud parent of a senior at Rancho Bernardo High School. I'm here to support the inclusion of courses like ethnic literature and ethnic studies within our curriculum and the district's efforts on racial equity and inclusion. For my Black child growing up with adoptive white parents, these classes represent an important opportunity for my child to learn history from a point of view that I can never fully provide. These courses teach about implicit bias, the existence of structural inequity within our laws and society, and give voice to a more complex, nuanced version of history than is traditionally taught in literature and history courses at this level. These courses do not teach critical race theory. These courses do teach students to be introspective and to think independently, to challenge previously held beliefs, to recognize that there is more than one marginalized group out there, and those groups have had different experiences. In my professional life, I actively seek out alternate points of view and different ideas from people who have different experiences than my own. By taking this approach, we inevitably come up with a substantially better solution than if we had just consulted those great minds that think alike. The foundation for the ability to seek out those alternate ideas to be successful in our professional life is set while we're in school, and courses like these will be a cornerstone to that foundation. To learn more about CRT, please review the article, What is Critical Race Theory and Why is Everyone Talking About It?, published July 1st, 2021 at columbia.edu. In the article, Columbia Law School professors explain how critical race theory is a method of research for legal scholars and how it's being misunderstood. In conclusion, PUSD's racial equity and inclusion efforts should be applauded. Courses like ethnic literature and ethnic studies should be made more broadly available for any interested students. And I believe we should be thanking the district for taking a stand and doing what's right for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next is Casey Doan. Casey, it's your turn to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am Casey and a mum of 3 beautiful biracial kids. My husband's originally from Vietnam and I'm from Australia. Being immigrants, we are learning every day about how the school system here works. But we bought our house in PQ when our oldest was a baby. She's now in 3rd grade, and we bought it specifically to be within the Poway Unified School District. So when the Black and Poway Instagram was launched, I was shocked and extremely concerned. When George Floyd was murdered and parents in Poway were finally motivated to do something, I joined them. I am the Diversity and Inclusion Chair on my children's elementary school PTO, and I am the current JEDI Chair of the Palomar Council PTSA. This work extends beyond racial equity to ensuring that our LGBTQ+ students and families are respected, to ensuring low-income families have a place at the table, and to making our special education programs well-resourced. I'm here tonight to applaud PUSD for beginning this equity, diversity, and inclusion work, for holding community conversations, for developing the equity plan, for implementing ethnic studies and ethnic literature courses, for hiring Dr. Hara as Equity and Improvement Director to spearhead this critical work. As a parent, I am here to support this work in any way that I can. I recognize that I was raised with extreme privilege as a white person, and I continue to benefit from systems that were built to serve white people like myself. I have a lot to learn and unlearn, but I want to do this work because it's the right thing. I've heard speakers at past meetings, and indeed at tonight's meeting, raising concerns about this work and trying to suggest that critical race theory is being taught in our schools. It is not. Shame on them. Learning real history through the lens of historically suppressed voices is absolutely crucial to ensuring that our kids grow up with the ability to differentiate truth from whitewashed fiction. Thank you, PUSD, for pushing forward on this work. Our families, our community, and our future truly does rely on an education system that values each of its students equally, giving each the opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Next speaker is Mary Costello. Mary Costello, it's your turn. Go ahead. Mary, you need to unmute before you can go ahead and speak.
My apologies. Good evening,
Can hear you now.
Superintendent. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Phelps, Madam President Couvrette, board members, and PUSD staff. Thank you for your time tonight, as well as your ongoing dedication to public service and education. As a current PUSD parent of a senior at Poway High and avid volunteer in our district and community for 12 years, I wish to applaud your decision and successful launch of a new and inspired research-based PUSD ethnic studies and literature programming this school year. Further, I encourage all members and staff to continue to strive for academic excellence for our PUSD students at all grade levels, to nurture successfully aware, socially responsible, accurately informed members of our society. It is a great responsibility to ensure our students receive a high quality of education. I am grateful my daughter may engage in this new opportunity through the current ethnic literature course. The impact is substantial. According to a recent Stanford University study of San Francisco Unified School District, students assigned to an ethnic studies course had longer term improvements in attendance and graduation rates. A complete education is essential to prepare students to thrive in our complex world. Ethnic studies and literature courses offer visibility of all that have contributed to the history and culture of our United States, provide a cross-cultural understanding of our nation, and honor the wide range of ethnicities, identities, and voices that are a part of it. Doing so bolsters inclusivity and acceptance of the diversity of our communities and country, both on campus and off. Racism, ignorance, and bias in our school system and society, whether microaggressions or more extreme overt acts, are painfully discouraging, traumatic, and often tragic. Ethnic studies and literature courses are not simply exciting new choices. They are critical to building multicultural acceptance, unity, dispelling false rhetoric, and preventing hate and exclusion. Thank you for expanding your course offerings to include a broader, more complete understanding and awareness of our nation, strengthening our humanity, and embracing proper narratives while improving our PUSD campuses and Poway community. I commend PUSD for the ongoing efforts to provide robust, accurate learning opportunities for our students through the Ethnic Studies and Literature Initiative and supporting all families in our PUSD community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next speaker, Freda Brenzell. Freda.
Ms. Peck, sorry to interrupt at this time. There's 1 minute left on 1 minute, 30 seconds left on this topic.
Thank you. Ms. Brenzell, you have 1 minute. Thank you.
1 minute, 30 seconds.
Dear board members, I have 3 children in Poway Unified School District, and I'm speaking in support of the Equity and Inclusion Plan and also in support of the amazing ethnic literature and studies classes. My child is one of the 644 high school students that are taking ethnic literature and studies this year. And even though he's planning to study math in college, this has been his favorite class. And I know it's not the only one that feels that way. Opponents of ethnic literature and studies and the Equity and Inclusion program claim that it causes division, that some students will discover that they are victims and that others that they feel guilt. This country was founded on racist ideas. So division started long before we planned for ethnic studies. For a long time, you couldn't even become a citizen unless you were white. This country has always been divided. Black and brown children are acutely aware that they are not treated the same way as white kids. It's not something they will suddenly learn at school. Maybe guilt is actually a good thing because it will help prevent us from repeating history. And also learning about the Holocaust, where Germans carry the guilt, is important, but it's also a lot easier because we don't have to look at ourselves and what we could have done differently. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Patel, any time left on this item? We do have several people waiting.
There's 4 seconds.
Could I ask how many more we have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At least 7.
Well, that's a lot on the same topic. So we should probably move on, don't you think, Dr. Patel, in keeping with our format?
Yeah, that is our standard operating procedure. 15 minutes per topic.
All right, moving on to the next topic under public comments for unagendized topics is the topic of fruit bowl. And when asked to clarify, it was repeated that that is the topic, and the speaker is Tracy Cook. Tracy, go ahead. Tracy, if you'd like to speak, you need to unmute. There you go.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You can hear me now? Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm not tech savvy here, so I'm sorry. You can hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Tracy Cook, and I work in transportation. And I've been with the district for a little over 7 years. I have a little worked over 20 years experience as a school bus driver, working in 3 other districts. At the beginning of the pandemic, the transportation director and assistant director held a meeting with bus drivers and aides, and were asked to consider working at other sites to assist with food service to help out other sites with staff due to staff shortages. Bus routes were not active at the time due to the pandemic. Without fully knowing about the COVID-19, a lot of us went out of our way to assist in the other positions working out of classification. We did this because we believe we are a team in the Poway School District. We helped out our fellow coworkers even when they are in different positions. This is what it means to be a family and to come together for the students and for each other. We asked about essential pay, hazard pay, but we're told it was not going to happen. We were informed that the district was going to do something different. Well, that something different was the superintendent showing up to transportation saying thank you to the drivers and leaving a fruit bowl. This is all we're worth to the district, a fruit bowl. We came together working out of classification during the unprecedented times, giving our all only to receive a verbal thank you and a fruit bowl. It was insulting. Every day we deep cleaned our buses, even prior to not knowing the seriousness and severity of this pandemic. Even though we have lost several of our staff members due to this horrible disease, we did not let the fear stop us from stepping up to help work as a team to help our fellow members and students at the schools districts that we ran. We did this because we generally cared about fellow staff and students alike. To be thanked via verbal thank you and receive a fruit bowl felt both demeaning and insulting compared to the work we did and have done as essential workers on behalf of other staff and students. Secondly, what is the district going to do to retain the staff they have left? We are doing our best with the shortage of drivers by doubling up routes. We are tired and drained, yet we still push on knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We want to know where our hazard pay is, as the districts have given the money, other districts have given the money to their staff. Sending Unified is an example of the district who gave the essential worker funds to their workers, including their transportation department staff. We are essential workers and want and deserve compensation for the hard work we have done during this unprecedented time. Federal funds were given for essential workers. Where is our one-time bonuses, cost of living adjustment, pay increases? Channel 10 News announced on Saturday morning that Seneca Unified is offering a $4,000 hiring bonus to all new hires. This is very inviting and makes anyone, including me, considering transferring because it shows they value their essential staff. What is PUSD going to do to retain their current?
Tracy, your time's up. Next speaker, I believe this is on the same topic, is Deborah Nunes. Deborah, go ahead. Deborah, can you unmute? It's your turn to speak.
There, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak today as a classified employee of over 16 years. I want to address all of you about the overwhelming challenges that we are facing both professionally and personally during this difficult time. The item I would like to address is the dire situation that is occurring right now with many unfilled classified positions and the extreme shortage of classified subs. On a daily basis, I witness what these shortages are doing to the dedicated classified employees who are working so hard to support our students and families. The frustrations and anger our parents face are being redirected at the classified staff. This has resulted in deep burnout and exhaustion for the staff, especially when they have to cover their own job as well as someone else's, because there is no substitute. The PUS salaries pale in comparison to other local school districts. That is a policy that has now resulted in terrible shortages when a new position is available. While classified employees did not come to PUSD expecting huge salaries, they do expect to be fairly compensated. Unless salaries are raised, this situation will continue and very possibly could get worse, especially during this time of rising inflation. And that should be definitely included, and that should definitely include substitute employees. I am very fortunate to work for admin at our site who support our office staff and know the dedication we have to the Mesa Verde students and families. But without substitutes, we cannot perform our jobs effectively. Unless the payment to classified subs is raised significantly, nothing will change. Both my daughters were PUSD students, and I have always been proud to share that with anyone I knew because they received the most excellent education while in PUSD. They both have degrees in the education field, and I could not be more proud as a parent. I ask that you give that same respect and support to the PUSD classified employees at a time when we need it most. In closing, I want to thank you for giving me this time to speak and respectfully request that you conclude that the extreme classified staffing and sub shortages are your first priority as PUSD board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. And Clerk Patel, I believe that concludes the public comments on all unagendized items under 4.2. The remaining comments are for agendized items.
Correct, Ms. Peck. Madam President, that concludes public comment for non-agenda items. We can now move on from this agenda item.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patel. We'll move on to 4.3, trustee area boundaries, redistricting. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. This evening, we're pleased to share with the board the first review of the revised trustee area boundary maps predicated on the 2020 census data for Poway Unified School District that we considered at our last board meeting, October 14th. We have with us this evening a few guests who will make the presentation. We have Justin Rich, the Executive Director from Cooperative Strategies, here with us. We have Susan Miller, Senior Associate Director from Cooperative Strategies. And we have our legal counsel, William Tunick from Dennis, Walliver, and Kelly. So at this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Ms. Miller, who I believe will be walking us through the maps.
Great. Thank you very much for having us this evening. This is the second meeting that we have had. You had a meeting back in October, and we can go to the next slide just to give people an understanding of where we are in the process. We had the potential maps prepared after that meeting of October 14th. As you recall, this is in response to the California Department of Finance release on September 20th. Of the update of the populations that are served within the different trustee areas. And at that time, we were aware that we had about an 8.8% overall increase in population served in PUSD for about a total of about 16,600 population increase overall. The biggest increases took place in trustee area A, and there was the loss in trustee area D. And I think that was discussed at the time of your board meeting on the 14th. So the meeting today is in response to that conversation. We were asked to come back with suggested ideas in terms of how to rebalance the trustee areas. And so that's what we're going to present this evening. So if we go to the next page, on page 2, this is the trustee map as it currently stands. And on the third page, this is a little bit busy, but it is the brief overview of what we're looking at in terms of talking about the variance and whether or not a district needs to reconsider their balancing of trustee areas. And anything that is over the 10% level is considered for reevaluation. And since your variance is at 32.5%, that is certainly within the area that we need to be talking about rebalancing. How we talk about figuring out what that rebalancing needs to look like, we take your total population served at this time of 204,828 individuals and divide that by 5, your 5 trustee areas, for a balance of 40,966. And as we look down at the different trustee areas, we can see that we need a bit of rebalancing across trustee area B as well as trustee area D and E. If we go to the next page, we give an overview about how we rebalance the trustee areas. What are the must-dos that we must consider? That each area shall contain nearly equal number of inhabitants. So that is a must-do that we need to be thinking about as we did the rebalancing of the trustee areas, as well as we have to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which means not dividing or diluting a protected class so that it inhibits their ability to elect candidates of their choice. And also when we're thinking about the reconsiderations of the trustee areas, what would be ideal? Well, we'd like to keep them compact and contiguous as much as possible. We don't want bizarre shapes and areas that are seen to be manipulated anyway. We want it to be clear as we can be with our community. And we also want to make sure that we respect the communities of interest as much as possible, keeping groups together that share social and economic characteristics. And then what we try to also do as best as we can is follow the man-made and natural geographic features, what mountains or rivers or roads that we can take into consideration so that we're not dividing areas unnecessarily, as well as try to understand the individuals that serve these trustee areas as well. And then the other consideration is what the local considerations might be in terms of school boundaries that are served within the trustee areas. So if we go on to the trustee page number 5 of the presentation, this is what the current configuration is for our scenario number 1.
Ms. Miller, can you see the screen? We're on slide 8.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. If we go back to scenario number 1, if we could. Thank you.
One more back.
One more on the, there
we
you go. Thank you very much. If we look at this slide in particular, you'll see that the purple outline is as the trustee areas stand at this time. And then the colored areas refer to how those changes are made. So for example, when you look at trustee area A at this present time is a north-south contiguous area served. Under this first scenario, you'll notice that C takes a northwest portion of the A area, and A moves a little bit into the space of C to the east. In this scenario, we bring the variance down to about 5.3% overall across the trustee areas. We can go to the next page, page 6, and you can see how that balances out across the different trustee areas in terms of populations to be served, with a high of 42,187 in trustee area A and trustee area E of about 39,987. When we go to page number 7, that's our second scenario. Similarly, we are also looking at the rebalancing of A and C accordingly, and movement of D in portion to rebalancing with A. This variance is about a 4.3 variance, sorry. So it's a little bit less than the first scenario that we looked at. When we look at scenario 3, once again, we're rebalancing a little bit with A and C. And in this case, we have a variance just under 10% of about 8.2%. Moving on to the fourth scenario, this one keeps the north-south of A and rebalances across the district of about 7.8%. And then our last scenario is number 5. And this one takes us down to about a 4% variance, balancing across the different trustee areas, as you can see, from a high of about 41,646 to the low of about 39,987 in trustee area A. And we're certainly able to take questions if you would like to discuss the different options that we've provided to you all.
Are there any questions out there? I can only see a few people at a time, so no questions. Thank you so much for putting this together. I know it's a lot of information for everyone to go through. Yes, Dr. Patel.
It's not really a question, but maybe more of a, maybe it is a question. Sure. Have you gone through in these maps very carefully to the finest level possible to ensure that none of them are cutting a street or a cul-de-sac or a neighborhood? I know this is done by census block areas.
Right.
So sometimes we can't control how those are done depending on how the census block is drawn. But I know in our other map, there were some constituents that were very concerned that one side of the street or a residential neighborhood was cut. So can you just speak to that a little bit, please?
I'm sure. My understanding is that we tried our best not to break the consensus blocks. I believe in the fifth scenario, there may be some of that taking place, but we try to keep that as low as possible. If you want the detail of that, I'm happy to get that for you so that you would have exactly where that was taking place.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm glad it's posted on the website for people to take a look and give feedback.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Have a great evening.
So with that, we will move on to 5.0, the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to pull any item from the consent calendar? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve?
On a motion by Dr. Patel and a second by Ms. O'Connor Radcliffe. All those in favor, say aye. Motion carries 5-0. We now move on to 6.0, the Personnel Support Services. 6.1 is an action item, the approval of additional holiday compensation for classified employees who worked on June 18th, 2021. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Couvret. As many know, last June, President Biden signed legislation known as Juneteenth National Independence Day, designating June 19th as a new public holiday. Now, while the president signed this legislation, this action did not require California schools to close, nor did it constitute a state holiday for California public school classified employees. However, California may pass legislation in the future that would require school districts to compensate classified staff for this holiday. And we do anticipate further clarity from the California governor or state legislature on this issue. This designation, coincidentally, was announced by the president just 2 days before June 19th. And that's while our schools were still open for students. If you recall, the last day of the 2020-21 school year was Friday, June 18th. However, for the 2021 school year only, the district and the Poway School Employees Association agreed to provide additional compensation to those PSA employees that did work on Friday, June 18th. And this agreement resolves any future disputes regarding the June 19th or Juneteenth 2021 issue. The recommendation for the board is to approve additional holiday compensation for all classified employees who did work on Friday, June 18th and are still employed with the district in January of 2022. They would receive a payment at their regular rate of pay for the hours worked on June 18th.
Are there any questions for Mr. Jimenez? Do I have a motion to approve? And a motion by Mr. Zane. Do I have a second by Dr. Patel? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to 6.2, which is an action item, the approval of new classification, visual and performing arts specialist. Mr. Jimenez.
Madam President, I do want to let you know there's one public comment on this item.
Do we hear that first? Thank you. Ms. Peck.
Thank you, Madam President. The public comment on this item 6.2 is from Janet Latang. Janet, it's your turn to speak. Go ahead and unmute.
Good evening, Superintendent Kim Phelps, President Couvret, and board trustees. I'm happy to be here tonight to speak with you once again about PUSD's Visual and Performing Arts program. Thank you to the PUSD administration who have proposed the approval of a new classification, Visual and Performing Arts Specialist. As a member of PUSD's Strategic Arts Forum in 2018, I learned a great deal from the VAPA teachers who participated in this process. They truly are PUSD's experts on each of their specific VAPA areas. Has the district reached out to the district's VAPA teachers to ask their opinion on this new position of a VAPA specialist? Personally, I think that the basic function description for the VAPA specialist is strong, with the proposed VAPA specialist providing for oversight and support for the implementation of PUSD's Strategic Arts Plan. I'm supportive of the proposed representative duty number 11, which states that the VAPA specialist will support and provide leadership specific to the implementation of content standards in visual and performing arts. This is where I think there is the most room for growth as PUSD moves to implement the current VAPA standards. Finally, I am most excited for the future implementation of Strategic Arts Plan Area number 5, Equity and Access, that all PUSD students would have equitable and consistent exposure to and opportunities for engagement in a standard-based arts education across the 5 VAPA disciplines: media arts, theater arts, dance, visual arts, and music throughout their PUSD experience.
This proposal of a visual and performing arts specialist is a good first step towards supporting the implementation of PUSD's strategic arts plan. I look forward to what the future holds for PUSD's visual and performing arts program. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Latane. That concludes public comments on item 6.2.
Back to you, Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam President. One of the goals of the Poway Strategic Arts Plan is human and physical resources, which focuses on allocating funds to employ highly qualified art educators. The recommendation of the team is to hire a VAPA specialist and evaluate all human and physical resources and identify areas of need. If we recall, in 2019, when the plan was presented to the board, funding for a dedicated position was not yet available. With new funds coming into the district, we are now able to prioritize money towards this goal to more fully address all goals of the VAPA strategic plan. The culture and community goals focus on promoting and celebrating the arts programs in PUSD, including to work collaboratively with arts organizations and artists and strengthen partnerships with district families. And finally, the equity and access goal states that all PUSD students will have consistent exposure to and opportunities for engagement in a standards-based arts education. Tonight, we recommend this new position to support the continued growth and impact of VAPA for all PUSD students.
Thank you. I know that whenever we survey parents and kids, VAPA is always high on their list. It keeps kids interested. A lot of kids stay in school for the arts and music. So I'm excited to see this new position. Are there any questions from other trustees? Yes, Michelle. Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe. Not so much a question as just like to let Ms. Latang know if this is what it takes to get you back in our public comment rotation, that's all good. I did speak at length and really gave the third degree to Ms. Osborne and Dr. Phelps about this position. Wanted to know all the ins and outs. What are we expecting? How are we going to get this person? Does this person exist? I am excited to be moving forward with our district VAPA plan, but I really think that the number of things that this position is impacting it makes it a really important position to get it right. It's going to impact elementary exploration, our middle school redesign, our career technical education, all our VAPA teachers at every level, community arts partners, and our facilities rentals. This could be really exciting. And I hope it's really exciting. That is my hope for this position, and I do support it. Yes, Mr. Zane.
I share the excitement of Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe. This is really a great opportunity for the district to really consolidate a lot of functions and get some efficiencies in place. I'm curious if there are still conversations ongoing with the city of Poway as it relates to PCPA and how potentially this position might be able to play a role in the administration of the joint use of PCPA.
No information on that one.
I can address that question. We continue our conversations with the city of Poway. We're still working with developing sort of the parameters around the collaboration between us and them, and certainly I know for a fact that they're excited that this is coming before the board this evening because they see this as an important nexus between our relationship and between us and them and the implementation of their new model at PCPA, and just getting some more opportunity for communication and cross-pollination of the programs between the two of us.
Excellent. Motion to approve, by the way.
I have, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so a motion by Mr. Zane, a second by Dr. Patel. I do have a comment, and it's off of kind of what Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe was saying is, when you look at the duties, they're quite overwhelming and extensive. And you have the education curriculum and making sure we serve all students. And then you have knowing how to do the technical stuff on number 8, or you have the facilities design on number 5. And I know when you go to hire somebody, we're going to have to prioritize because not everyone can be strong at all those different points. And I speak for myself when I vote in favor of this, but I hope that we really pick that best person who can bring the arts, the curriculum, and the development to all students. and rely on some technical people to maybe help them out if they're not quite as good with the lights necessarily, because we have 36,000 kids that could really have fun and enjoy the arts program and coordination. So that's just a comment on my side. Any other comments before we take a vote?
Ginger, to add to that, the individual theater techs will still be there, and so will the student programs. So there'll be lots of technical support, I'm sure.
Excellent. Good, good. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And then we are on to an information item. 6.3, submittal of annual workers' compensation self-insurers report to the State Office of Self-Insurance. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Couvret. Education code and our labor code require that staff report to our board the total workers' compensation liabilities and whether current funding of those liabilities is compliant with the requirements of the Government Accounting Standards Board, better known as GASB 10. The self-insurer's annual report was accepted by the State Department of Industrial Relations on September 1, 2021, as required, and reported a total estimated future liability for all self-insured claims as of June 30th, 2021 to be $11,024,471. In addition, the future estimated cost for self-funded workers' compensation liabilities was $787,011 and will continue to decrease over time. This is due in part because this figure represents the estimated cost for self-insured claims which were incurred prior to June 30th of 2005 when the district was self-funded and carried its own excess workers' compensation insurance. Since July of 2005, the district has been a member of a fully insured program called PIPS, or Protected Insurance Program for Schools. So currently, funding is set aside and restricted solely to pay workers' compensation liabilities, including excess insurance coverage reserves. And that balance is just over $12 million. So therefore, we are pleased to inform the board that the funding of all future liabilities for workers' compensation complies with the requirements under GASB 10. This item is information only for our board of trustees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Okay, and then we move on to 7.0, Business Support Services. 7.1 is an action presentation, authorization to execute the First Amendment to the final guaranteed maximum price for the Del Norte High School expansion, field, and lighting project. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This evening, we seek the board's approval with respect to the guaranteed maximum price related to our current Del Norte High School leaseback expansion project. Excuse me. By approving the guaranteed maximum price, or the GMP, for this project, the board will effectively amend the contract with our leaseback partner, Balfour Beatty, and will give the green light to begin this work at Del Norte High School. Next slide, please. As a reminder, this is what project scope is included in the GMP, and we'll review these component parts momentarily. Next slide, please. Before we begin reviewing the project scope, though, I wanted to take a moment to share a bit about the GMP process, as it was both collaborative and, in our estimation, very effective in ensuring good value for the district on this particular project. So during our selection process for the leaseback contractor, as I mentioned, Balfour Beatty, our partner, general contractor markups, including the contractor's leaseback fee and general conditions, were negotiated and established. Once the final design documents were approved by DSA, which happened a few months ago, Balfour Beatty developed multiple trade bid packages that were then put on the street and competitively bid by subcontractors. So these bids, once we got them back, were reviewed by both district staff and Balfour Beatty to ensure full scope coverage and that the subcontractors that were being selected offered the best value to the district. So for this project, we were able to attract good subcontractor participation in the bids, with multiple subcontractors competitively bidding on each package. And in fact, the total subcontractor bids came in about $1 million less than the final construction estimate that we had had completed right before going to the bidding process. So that's a little bit of good news to report with respect to the process side. Next slide, please. So let's go back to the component parts of the GMP and the project. So just as a reminder, again, you've seen this before, this is the schematic of the new classroom building that we'll have at Del Norte High School when the project's finished. It's comprised of 3 science lab classrooms and 3 all-purpose classrooms. Next slide, please. We'll have approximately 4.6 acres of new artificial turf that will be utilized by numerous district sports and activity groups. These fields also include LED lighting, obviously to expand the opportunity for those particular uses. We're excited about this new field. Right now, that space is not being utilized much at all, if at all, by our students at Del Norte. Next slide, please. The project also includes a 3,600 square foot restroom, team room, and storage building to accommodate our various user groups and their needs in their sports programs and their activity programs. Next slide, please. And in addition to these component parts, the GMP also includes the installation of a portable classroom. That's part of the subcontractor bid package. That's to sort of deal with the projected enrollment growth at Del Norte High School over the next year, as well as a $1.75 million allowance for lighting on the baseball, softball fields. Our next agenda item, where we address the late start mandate, sort of driving us towards getting this allowance in there and making sure that our ball fields are lit as we move to a later start time for school next year. So when we add in the general conditions, the leaseback fee of 3.5% and the contingency on both the owner side, us, and the contractor side, Balfour Beatty, our total guaranteed maximum price for this project under the Balfour Beatty contract is $17,043,220. And that's what we're seeking your approval for this evening. Next slide, please. I think this is our final slide here. Just in sense of a timeline, with the board's approval this evening, we will begin work in 2 weeks' time. So early December, we'll break ground on the classroom and the sports field project with the goal of being completed by the time school starts next year for 22-23. The ball field lighting for the baseball and softball fields will take a little bit longer. We have to finish the design. Hopefully that will be done in January. Then it has to go to DSA for approval. We have to go through a CEQA process. We're anticipating getting all of that done by late spring of next year, and then hopefully being able to begin that work in the summer of 2022. Next slide, please. So again, this evening we're seeking the board's approval of the guaranteed maximum price on this project, which will by fiat amend the contract and allow us to begin work immediately on the project. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Are there questions out there? Yes, Mr. Zane.
Actually, my hand probably just moved by the screen. I was making a motion for approval, but also this is very exciting for Del Norte. And I know I've looked at that field over behind the football stadium. It's very underutilized, shall we say, and in need of much work. While what's much more expensive, probably just as exciting to students at Mount Carmel is a $500,000 investment into their Performing Arts Center. So this is great to see these improvements taking place at various schools in the district, and this looks like a good project all around. So motion for approval.
I'll second that, because it's going to be beautiful to see. And I know my daughters played on those fields, and it's going to make them just more wonderful for all the students and community out there. Yes, Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe.
I just had one thing that I want to make sure we say, because I didn't notice it in the presentation, Mr. Little. These funds for these projects are coming from our community facilities district, not our general fund.
Yes, it's a combination of the CFD funds, the community facilities district funds, as well as from Fund 40 I believe part of the state reimbursement that we got will also be used towards this project.
Neither of which qualify as nowhere near our general fund. I just want to make sure anybody listening understands that. Thanks.
Very good point.
Just for reference on that, looking at the green sheet and for the public, that's $15.8 million from CFB funds, approximately 1.2 from our special reserves funds for capital outlay.
Okay, well, with that, it looks like we're ready for a vote. All those in favor? Ms. Zhu, you have a vote on this one as well, and it's unanimous at 6-0. Thank you. And now we move on to 7.2, which is an information presentation, a transportation update on late starts mandate SB 328. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you again, Madam President. I believe Director Purvis is in the room and he's going to be helping actually do the bulk of the presentation here. But you'll recall that at the May 13th board meeting, Director Purvis and I presented 3 options to the board, illustrating the challenges for our student transportation as a result of the passage of Senate Bill 328, which was codified into law as Ed Code Section 46148, pupil attendance, school start time. At that time in May, we presented 3 options. One was cost neutral, as you might recall, but had some significant time issues. And the other 2 were quite costly in my mind. So this evening, Director Purvis is going to review those 3 very, very quickly because we've seen them, and then present a new 4th option for your consideration. I think that hopefully will look much better to you. Before we begin, I'd like to just highlight for the board just a little bit of statistics about our transportation program. Next slide, please. The district transports approximately 3,300 students daily for home to school transportation. Approximately 2,500 students access general education transportation, which, as you know, is a non-mandated support service. Through a parent fee program, the district generates local revenue of nearly $1.4 million to offset the contribution for that non-mandated general ed busing program, leaving about a $2.7 million contribution from the general fund. In addition to that, we have about 800 special ed students that we do transport. And that, of course, is mandated, and our contribution to that program is a little less than $5.9 million. We also transport about 75,000 students, right, annually for co-curricular and extracurricular activities utilizing our large general education bus fleet. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Purvis now, who will guide us through the 3 options and the new one. Mr. Purvis?
Thank you, Mr. Little. Good evening, President Cravette, members of the board, and Superintendent Phelps and Cabinet. We are pleased to share with you this evening a 4th option to address the district's requirement to support the new pupil attendance school start time mandate for our secondary schools. Following our May presentation and with direction from Superintendent Phelps, Associate Superintendent Osborne, and Little, LSS Director Lemaster, Christine Donnelly, and myself met to discuss the large impact, which, as you know, specifically hit upon our middle schools. Through discussion and reassessment of the high school instructional minutes utilized to build the original transportation formula, a discretionary 15 minutes was identified that allowed us to re-explore the previous models. In the development of the prior options, we were working with a 7-hour and 15-minute day for the high schools, which allowed for greater flexibility with their instructional minutes. By adjusting to a 7-hour and 5-minute day, it gives less flexibility with instructional minutes, but it mirrors the current model in place at 4 of our high schools at this time. By maintaining what the high schools currently have in terms of instructional minutes, it allowed us to go back and reconfigure to get the middle school drop off earlier. To restate the Ed Code Section 46148, pupil attendance school start time. It requires that high schools cannot begin student instruction before 8:30 a.m. and that middle schools cannot begin instruction prior to 8 a.m. The mandate does not address established minimum start times for elementary schools. Again, I offer this as a reminder, and that the implementation date is due by July 2022 for impact on the 2022-23 school year. Next
Mr.
slide.
Purvis, just to interrupt, the slides are not advancing.
So, Mr. Purvis, if you can, when you're ready for the next slide to help the person who's doing it in IT, just say next slide.
Sure.
So we're one slide behind. So can you roll to the next slide, please? So this is the slide that you were talking about in regards to the new mandates, correct?
Correct. And if we could advance one more slide to slide 4. At the May presentation, we shared with the board that the district has an established 3-tiered master bell schedule. The 3-tiered master bell schedule was developed many years ago as a means to control expense and to reduce district contribution for general education pupil transportation. And again, just as a reminder, the purpose of transportation efficiencies, having a multi-tiered master bell schedule allows the district to utilize the fewest number of buses and drivers by staggering the fleet demand through the multiple use of buses through the AM and the PM. And again, for PUSD's geographical size, the positioning of our schools, an approximate 40 to 45 minute window is needed between each tier to allow for student pickups and drop-offs. Next slide, please. So in a quick recap of options 1, 2, and 3 for the board, in option 1, the district can maintain the needed 45-minute window needed for efficient routing, and it is cost neutral, but it is not conducive for students. Next slide, please. In option 2, we were able to mitigate the elementary 7:30 a.m. start time that you saw in option 1 by 15 minutes, allowing for the 7:45 a.m. start and 2:00 p.m. dismissal. That was one of the main elements when we showed that option. This provides for the earliest possible start time for high schools under the new mandate, but obviously the burden fell upon the middle schools. The option requires the late time for our middle schools and did have a cost impact of 1.75 million. Next slide, please. Option 3, again, provided for the earliest possible school start time of high schools of 8:30 a.m. that the mandate provides the necessary 45-minute split between all tiers. But it also causes for the loss of the tier in the afternoon, the PM, as well. Option 3 provides for the slightly later start time of 7:45 for the elementaries. It had a very high, in my opinion, cost associated with it of 6.1 million. But again, it was problematic due to the middle schools. So what I'd like to do now, next slide, please, is get into the purpose of tonight's presentation, and that is a brand new option 4, which I believe mitigates the board's and our concern on the prior proposals. Option 4 new represents the collaborative effort of LSS, BSS, and transportation after identification of the discretionary 15 minutes that was in the formula for the prior 3 options presented. By slightly altering the high school start time by only 10 minutes, we were able to move the middle schools to their earliest possible start time under the new Ed Code requirement of 8:00 a.m. with a 2:45 p.m. dismissal. Even with the high school start time of 8:40 a.m., we were able to maintain the high school dismissal of 3:45 p.m., which was in the prior option 3. Option 4 also maintains a slightly later start time for our elementary schools as in option 3, which was 7:45 a.m. with a 2:00 p.m. dismissal. The option also mediates the impact upon the district supported trips and substantially reduces the fiscal impact to approximately 1.6 million. Keeping in mind that although substantially mitigated fleet expansion is required for option 4, any expansion in the fleet must take into account the need for expanding parking space. We are literally packed in transportation, actually overfilled at this time. Although option 4 only has 2 tiers in the morning, The model will permit the needed multi-tiered approach, allowing for the greatest efficiency under the new secondary later school start time. Next slide, please. So in closing, I'd like to recap the estimated one-time and ongoing fiscal impact for the district of options 2 through 4. Option 2 has a projected cost for the district of $1.7 million. The figure includes approximately $1.05 million for the purchase of approximately 7 school buses for that option. Ongoing expense of approximately $700,000 is needed to support the expansion of the fleet with 7 additional school buses and staff and operation expenses. Option 3 has a projected cost for the district of $6.1 million. The calculation includes approximately $4.4 million for the purchase of approximately 21 school buses. Ongoing expense of $1.7 million is needed to support the expansion of the operation with 21 school bus drivers, the additional vehicle maintenance tech, and additional operations supervisor. Next slide, please. And option 4, the new option, has a projected cost for the district reduced down to $1.6 million. The calculation includes approximately $1.5 million for the purchase of approximately 5 school buses. Ongoing expense of $559,000 is needed to support the expansion of the operation with 5 school bus drivers, 1 additional vehicle maintenance tech, and 1 additional ops supervisor. In comparison with option 3, option 4 is $3.3 million less in one-time cost and $1.2 million less in ongoing cost. More importantly, option 4 fully mitigates the problematic later start time for our middle schools and impacts our high school start time by only 10 minutes, meaning 10 minutes beyond the earliest it could start, which was 8:30. It moves them to 8:40 a.m. And again, keeping the same dismissal time. Option 4 will allow for the district to maintain the greatest efficiency under the parameters of the new mandate within a modified multi-tiered bell schedule. So with that, we're hoping that option 4 answered a lot of concerns and we'd entertain questions by the board.
Thank you so much, Mr. Purvis. It's so nice to see this brought up here. And it's amazing how 15 minutes can make magic happen. So I appreciate you being so creative that way. I have a question regarding the buses. Do we have to purchase more buses than we just authorized at the previous board meetings?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I had approached Mr. Little for our replacement needs this coming year, which is in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 buses. So all along those 20 buses, I believe Mr. Zane asked a similar question at the last board meeting. If we didn't need those 20 buses for the earlier start school, the differential number of buses simply goes to offset the replacement of buses. Had we needed to use all 20, we would not have been able to impact any replacement needs of the districts, which would be an eventual problem in years following. So we simply would use 5 of the 20 buses, board member Corvette, to offset the expansion. The other 15 would offset the needed 20 to 30 replacement buses.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Thank you, Dr. Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Purvis, for your wonderful option 4, because that does help our thought process quite a lot. There was a lot of anxiety over how we were going to make this work financially and logistically. My question comes back to drivers. I know we're struggling with staffing in that regard right now, and I know that the waiting list for riders is quite long. With your estimates of 5 additional buses and drivers in the option 4, will we be able to actually fulfill on that? I know you're recruiting quite heavily and you have several drivers in class right now. So can you please give us an update on that?
Absolutely, Dr. Patel, wonderful opportunity for us to share some great news. As of Monday of last week, all student wait lists have been eliminated with the offer of transportation. Wow. However, I'll tell you, we're on a very, very, very thin margin. If we have high absenteeism or vehicle breakdown, our parents are being extremely gracious in helping and being patient. But I want you to know the wait lists are fully eliminated at this time. Another reason we moved swiftly, possibly a little bit more quickly than we otherwise would have, is because with the wonderful assistance of Personnel Support Services, and Ron and Christine. A huge thank you goes out for the media attention. We're taking full advantage, pathetically, of that. As of today, meeting with our safety and training team, we have 18 new drivers somewhere in the process. And in addition to that, we have about a half dozen or so applications waiting in the Personnel Commission for the 4th class that will start here either in mid-December or early January. Keeping in mind, we're down 50% of our safety and training instructors. Our folks are working. I just want to shout out for them. They're working 6 days a week and very long hours to do class after class. Now we're just hammering at the California Highway Patrol to get in here and train our folks. We'll begin to see the first of those new drivers, about 5, probably go into the field just before the winter holidays, with a good number of them at the beginning of the year. So Dr. Patel, I can comfortably say that I believe we will meet the needs of our staffing shortage and be able to expand by the 5 drivers.
Well, thank you for that excellent news. Thank you very much.
I have to say too, Christine did work really hard in helping with the recruiting efforts. And the latest story that I read that was printed about the retired pilot who's now going to be one of our new bus drivers, that was a really wonderful story. And I thought that did a great job probably in helping to recruit a lot of people as well too. So nice job, everyone.
And a shout out to our full driving staff. These folks are working double duty. I want the board to know that they are doing extra runs and routes, and I'm so proud of their efforts right now. We couldn't do this without them.
Thank you. Mr. Zane.
I'll just pile on with the gratitude and thanks to Director Purvis and the entire department for all the hard work that they're doing. And in the future, I would just hope that if you just tell us you need another meeting or two to bring us good news and another proposal at a fraction of the budget, just let us know and we will we'll give you the added time.
Yes, Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe. I just wanted to throw out, because I know we have interested parties who aren't currently sitting on this Zoom screen. I think you've made the case absolutely that options 2 and 3 are terrible. We don't want any part of those. But option 1 becomes a little more palatable when you add in the minus 10 minutes for high school. So if that's what we need to bring some other parties along, the fact that it's cost neutral is wonderful. I think option 4 looks great though from here, but option 1 might not look so bad when you subtract the 10 minutes from high school. That puts them out at 4:05, but it's not like the 4:30 for middle school. So I would be open to hearing about that one if that's the one that other parties are interested in.
Understood.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Purvis? Well, thank you. So, oh, yes, Ms. Sue.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Purvis, for the presentation. I did have one clarifying question. So I remember a couple of board meetings prior, we had approved electric buses. I'm wondering if those are the electric buses that we're incorporating in this plan? They are. When I referenced the 20 buses, those were the 20 buses the board approved, and we purchased under a CARB incentive grant called the HVIP Initiative Voucher. So we received 8 our first electric buses last year, and infrastructure beginning as we speak. And then those 20, bringing us up to 28 electric buses, those 20 will arrive in the spring. And yes, 5 of those again would be to fulfill the need of option 4. Wonderful. And my second question was that if the high school end times would be pushed to 5 or 4, 4:05, 4:30, the extra late bus routes, would those also be added to the schedule? Yeah, absolutely. There would be no need for us to impact our offering of the late activity bus. It would just move, adjust accordingly to about roughly an hour after school is when those buses operate. We just move them later now into the evening. All right, thank you, Mr. Purvis. And as a high schooler at Westview, I just wanted to express my gratitude for your work in this plan. Right now, I'm a senior at Westview, and our students are really tired all the time at school. Half of the class is always sleeping in at least one period. And our late start times starting at 9:30 have significant impacts on students' health and just their overall productivity. So I'm very excited to see this implemented.
Good. Thank you.
So I believe our goal is to bring this back again next month, President Couvret, and ask the board for some action.
Sounds good. Well, this was a great update and I enjoyed every comment, and we'll end with Mrs. Zhu's commentary on high schoolers liking that extra time. So on that, thank you, Mr. Purvis. We will move on to 8.0, Learning Support Services. 8.1 is an action item, the ratification of stipulated agreements for student expulsion. Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, President Couvret. Tonight, we bring forward 2 stipulated agreements for board approval.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve case number 2021-2022.05.
Motion approved.
On a motion to approve, I'm sorry, who said second?
Dr. Seitzma made the motion and I'm making the second.
Fantastic, thank you. And Dr. Patel in the second. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries 5-0. And now if I could have a motion for Kate to approve case number 2021-2022.06.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Zane and a second.
Second.
By second, Dr. Patel. All those in favor say aye. And motion carries 5-0. We move on to 8.2, which is another action item, ratification of student expulsion. Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to note that on our board agenda, this item was listed incorrectly. The item is readmission of student expulsion. The green sheet is correct, readmission of student expulsion, but our agenda was mistitled. So I wanted to share that with the public. Tonight, we bring forward 1 readmission for a student who was on expulsion, and this student has met the conditions of their contract and is eligible for readmission.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. May I have a motion to approve case number 2020-2021.02?
Motion to approve.
And a motion by Dr. Seitzma. I'll second that one. Second by myself, Couvret. All those in favor? Say aye. Motion carries 5-0. Now we go on to 8.3, which is the first reading, the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant Expenditure Plan. Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, President Couvret. The slide should be coming up for you. There we go. Tonight, we will present information regarding plans for utilizing new funding for Poway Unified focused on professional learning through a new Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. Next slide, please. Poway Unified's allocation of the Educator Effectiveness Funds is $11 million, and the funds will be available for use through 2026 to support professional learning. Our focus will be on expanding and deepening some of our current areas of focus to strengthen long-term improvements for student learning and their experiences on our campuses. One of the requirements of these funds is to coordinate efforts with the use of our Title II funding, which are federal dollars that are dedicated to professional learning. Next slide, please. The next few slides will provide you information regarding the areas of focus that are identified for use in the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. So on this slide, you'll see 4 areas: coaching and mentoring and support for beginning teachers and beginning administrators, programs that lead to improving literacy in language arts as well as all content areas, practices and strategies that re-engage and accelerate learning for our students, and strategies to implement social emotional learning, trauma-informed care, suicide prevention, and student well-being. Next slide, please.
Area 5 focuses on the work that we are currently engaged in through our racial equity and inclusion plan to create positive school climates free from bias, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Area 6 will support our continued efforts focused on inclusive practices and universal design for learning. Next slide, please. Area 7 is focused on the instruction to support our English language development programs and dual language programs. Item 8 allows for new professional learning networks, and funds are also available through this block grant to support ethnic studies curriculum at middle and high school. And finally, item 10 provides opportunities for targeted support for early childhood education. Next slide, please. I will now share the plans that Poway Unified has identified for utilizing these funds within the categories I just shared. Educator Effectiveness Funds will support our PPAP program, or Poway Professional Assistance Program, and intern programs to ensure the success of new teachers and a pathway for interns to support high-need credential areas. We will continue to support professional learning in the area of dyslexia and effective reading instruction, as well as middle and high school language arts and history in alignment with new frameworks and standards to support the new adoptions. Mathematics achievement is our greatest area of need in Poway and for our students, and so we would like to continue the work with our math TOSAs TK through 12. As you're also aware, with our one-to-one initiative for Chromebooks, we also see the need for continued coaching and professional learning with the support of our tech coaches in all of our schools. Next slide, please. It's critical to continue the professional learning focused on social emotional learning and well-being, and we will continue to support our PBIS, or positive behavior intervention and support, as well as opportunities for teachers to engage with professional learning to incorporate and integrate strategies for social emotional support. The Educator Effectiveness Funds will provide support to continue and expand our work with racial equity and inclusion, as well as inclusive practices and universal design for learning. We've also allocated funds for the expansion of foreign language at elementary and our world language programs. And finally, with the passing of new legislation regarding universal TK, we will be able to support professional learning for certificated and classified staff in the area of early childhood. Next slide. Tonight, this item is information only, and next month we will ask the board to approve our final expenditure plan, and a detailed budget plan has been provided to board members, and I'll take any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you so much for that great presentation, Carol. It's very exciting to have these opportunities for our teachers and then therefore our students. Are there some comments or questions out there? I guess everyone kind of loves it. Oh, fantastic. Well, great. Well, thank you again, Ms. Osborne. And you don't get to leave yet because we're now at 8.4, which is an information presentation, the Health and Safety Protocol Update and California Department of Public Health Guidance Update.
Madam President, sorry to interrupt, but we do have one public comment on this agenda item.
Fantastic.
We actually have 3, Dr. Patel. It's on the back of your sheet as well.
Oh, right. 3. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, thank you. And let's bring them in.
Thank you, President Couvret and Dr. Patel. On item 8.4, Health and Safety Protocol Update, we have 3 public speaker requests. The first being Cheryl Justiniano. Cheryl, it's your turn to speak. Go ahead and unmute and you can go ahead.
Hashtag fire Phelps. I am done negotiating with you. Darshana Patel, you need to resign or be recalled. Everything I'm going to say about Phelps, I'm directing to you as well, because you've also been lying about Poway parents. Neither of your Facebook pages mention you want to serve the families of Poway. Patel calls herself a politician. Phelps calls herself a political figure, not the superintendent. You're not going to use our children for your own political aspirations. Rather than representing us,
You repeated your false narrative that Poway parents are dangerous, disruptive, and that you need protection from them. You've even gotten law enforcement involved so you can hide behind Zoom calls and lock parents out of your meetings. Your behavior is directly out of the Randy Weingarten playbook.
Excuse me,
Don't interrupt me. I'm getting to the agenda item. This
Okay,
is my
please
time,
do.
and you're going to give me my time.
Well, just
I'm
say the
referring.
agenda item.
I will get to that, and I'm going to continue to speak, and you're not going to interrupt me. I'm referring all parents to the November 10th NBC article so parents can see that you're lying. I cannot believe that this school district has hired this woman paying her $375,000 a year, and she doesn't understand.
Can you get to the safety protocols, please?
I am getting there, and you're not going to continue to interrupt me. She's writing hashtag Fire Phelps in chalk is not graffiti. In 2013, the California court ruled that chalk art is not vandalism. In the article, you also state the individual was arrested. Just one more of your lies. Anybody can look at the police reports for these last 2 weeks and verify there was no arrest at the Poway district office. Another word you don't understand is manifesto. Nobody is harassing you at home. A process server has attempted to serve you and you're dodging service. It's the first step in a lawsuit. I am getting there.
You had multiple warnings from the president and you did not stick to the agenda topic. I'm sorry. President Couvret, we will move on to the next speaker.
Thank you.
In addition, there is a policy about not slandering employees and staff during the board meeting.
Next signed up to speak is Byron Yafuso. Byron, are you in the room? I don't see Byron in the Zoom chat, so we'll move on to the next speaker signed up. Jesse Reimer. Jesse Reimer, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Jessica Reimer. I would just like to say I do think it is ridiculous we're still having these meetings over Zoom. Districts all over the country and even in our own state are meeting in person. It is cowardly to still be having these meetings over Zoom. We should be in person, looking at each other face to face. I have 3 children in this district. My daughter has special needs. She receives 3 special ed services and 3 resource services at school. We love our teachers, we love our special ed aides, and we appreciate our schools so much. My daughter was born with 4 heart defects. When she was 2 years old, she had open heart surgery. I take my children's health very seriously, and I can read data. Children have almost 0 risk to this virus, thank goodness. But according to the CDC's own data, children are 4 to 6 times more likely to be hospitalized from vaccine-induced myocarditis than they are from COVID. So I am not going to give my children a shot that will put their heart at risk to protect them from a virus that they have almost no risk to. I will never give my children this vaccine, and I do not need an exemption. As their mother, I get to decide what goes into their bodies, and I say no. And as a heavily taxed resident of California, we also have the right to in-person education. I have seen the suggestion that if I don't want to vaccinate my kids, I should just homeschool them. I have a different suggestion. If parents don't feel it is safe to send their kids to school around my unvaccinated kids, those families should homeschool. But even better, how about give all parents the right to choose what is best for their own children, and all children can then go to school together without segregation. If you choose to enforce this vaccine mandate,
I will sadly pull all 3 of my children out of this district. I am that serious. And I know that I am not the only parent who feels this way. You will have an exodus of good families if you enforce this mandate. Governor Newsom has gone too far forcing this into our children. We are the only state that has this sweeping vaccine mandate for schools. No other state has done this because it is crazy. You don't have to obey him. He's not a king. He is an elected official just like you. And if you enforce this tyrannical mandate, we will pull our children out of public schools. We are your constituents. You are supposed to represent us. Send our message to Governor Newsom, the Department of Health, and whoever else you need to, that your constituents will not comply with this mandate. And if you support us, we will support you. Otherwise,
Thank you. Your time is up. We do have Byron Yafuso in the room. Byron, it's your turn to speak. Go ahead. Please stick to the agenda item.
Thank you so much for giving me a chance. I was listening to this whole meeting, I guess, just on the web. So anyway, I'll get to so I found agenda item 8.4 a little difficult to understand. So I kind of signed up to see if I can get more information on it. So it's got a 1-paragraph, 5-line agenda item listing several sections of the Health and Safety Code. And it suggests that today staff will provide an update on some COVID-19 related issues. I assume that update will explain kind of the connection between these health and safety code sections and activities or operations at PUSD, as well as how it relates to COVID-19. But since I haven't heard it yet, I don't know whether it would answer any of my questions. So I am requesting that after the staff's presentation, that the agenda item be clarified and then carried over maybe to a future board meeting so that there can be a meaningful opportunity for public discussion of the item. So I didn't recognize the health and safety code sections listed there, so I looked them up. And at least one of them sounds important enough to justify further discussion. In particular, health and safety code section 120140 states, quote, upon being informed by a health officer of any contagious, infectious, or communicable disease, the department may take measures as are necessary to ascertain the nature of the disease and prevent its spread. To that end, the department may, if it considers it proper, take possession or control of the body of any living person or the corpse of any deceased person, end quote. It's the sentence about the authority to, quote, take possession or control of the body of any living person, unquote, that kind of jumped out at me, made me very interested in how this relates to COVID-19 or Poway Unified School District. I hope you understand why. So I'm hoping that the board will facilitate transparency and openness regarding this agenda item by clarifying it and then providing an opportunity for public comment after it's been clarified. And also, in the interest of transparency, I would ask the board to, maybe tonight, I mean, assuming you guys have this information kind of in your heads, provide following pieces of information, and whether the portion of the agenda item talking about, quote, guidance for schools from the California Department of Public Health, unquote, was referring to any written documents or correspondence with the California Department of Public Health, and if so, whether that documentation can be made publicly accessible. Also, I understand that there was a board meeting held on November 8th, 2021, and I would be interested to know when the agenda for that board meeting was posted, because I might have wanted to listen in on that one as well. So, and in the event that you're going to schedule kind of an out of cycle board meeting to provide an opportunity for comment on.
Thank you, Byron. Your time is up. And I believe that concludes the public comment for this item. Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, we will provide a brief update on health and safety protocols in place to support continuity of learning and enrichment for our students. Next slide, please. As a reminder,
The California Department of Public Health requirements for all California schools must be followed to ensure all schools are able to remain fully open for all students. As you can see, the codes that were referenced on the green sheet are listed here, and they relate to the public health emergency. Districts must comply with the guidance for schools included in the state public health order. We continue to require masks for all indoors, and they are optional when students are outside. Staff continues to support hand washing protocols and the use of hand sanitizer throughout the school day. Next slide, please. As you're aware, we are pacing the expansion of visitors and activities on campus to ensure the health and safety of our students and staff. At this time, we are expanding after-school enrichment programs, especially at our elementaries. Our middle and high school have started their clubs, but we want to expand at elementary now at this time to ensure that we have after-school enrichment programs, and those that are supported will be those with teacher advisors, as well as site-based programs that are run by parent volunteers. These opportunities increase learning for students, but limits exposure. Next slide, please. There have been questions regarding visitors on campus and which are different from volunteers. Visitors are typically on campus for short periods of time. However, if they are interacting with students, they must follow the same protocol as volunteers and show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. If they are not interacting with staff, or I'm sorry, if they are not interacting with students, and they are able to remain physically distanced for the duration of their visit, they must wear a mask, but they would not need to show proof of vaccination or negative test. And when students are not present and visitors come on campus for things such as teacher meetings or parent conferences, these visitors do not need to show proof of vaccination or negative test results, but they must wear a mask to protect staff. Next slide, please. And vaccinations currently have received emergency FDA approval for students ages 5 through 11. The state mandate for student vaccination is still pending, and it will not go into effect until vaccinations have full FDA approval. And at this time, the information we have is that it will not happen during this school year, and it may not be ready by July 1st. So at this time, we do not have any information about the start date of a vaccine mandate for students. And final slide, next. Our focus continues to be on maintaining safe and healthy environments to ensure the continuity of learning opportunities for our students. This is an information item, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me at this time.
Are there any questions out there, any of the trustees? Has there been any discussion about metrics that have to be met when we might revisit the masks or vaccines, a certain number of vaccinations or kids, or is it just kind of quiet as we wait and see what happens during this winter time?
Yeah, CDPH has indicated that they are monitoring the situation and they're looking at vaccination rates as well as COVID rates, and they will continue to update if there is an opportunity to change the mask requirements.
Yes, Dr. Patel.
I have a couple questions for you. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Osborne. The first one is for your slide on visitors on campus. Just to clarify, this is for during the school day, right? Not for after school activities such as athletic events. Those fall under different regulations. And for VAPA events, what are the requirements at this time?
Thank you. So the outside the school day, those are optional activities. And so what I shared with you is during the school day, when kids are present, visitors can come on campus, sometimes for Friday Flag is an example, where they would come on just for that event. It's outdoors. Some of our schools have designated parent areas for observing. They can remain 6 feet distance from the students, and then they can leave and they would not need to show proof of vaccination. Things after school, such as VAPA, athletics, and different events after school, outside the school day, those are optional. And so people are choosing to attend those. And so those are not, we don't check vaccination status for those events.
Okay, wonderful. And going one slide further back for your after-school enrichment programs, when you say allow site-based programs run by parent volunteers, so these are things like Lego League, Science Olympiad, robotics, or any kind of after-school programs like that. They can now meet on campus. Is that what I'm understanding?
If they're run by parent volunteers through some of our PTA or foundation activities or with a teacher advisor, we are not yet opening to outside vendors just because that it increases the amount of contact tracing and the numbers of students and that would be mixing, and contact tracing becomes incrementally more complex. And so we want to, especially with cold and flu season, we want to kind of continue to hold and expand slowly. And so we are going with parent volunteers for clubs and activities after school, or teacher sponsored or teacher advisor supervised.
And with these parent volunteers, they're required to have proof of vaccination. Is that how we're?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
Parent volunteers who are working directly with students, proof of vaccination, or a negative COVID test within the last 72 hours.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Zane.
Thank you. So you called on me before you even really saw my hand go up.
I'm that quick.
First of all, thank you, Ms. Osborne, for the updates. I guess generally speaking, as I look at it, it's really kind of status quo for the moment, with maybe some minor updates. I mean, we're not moving away from many existing practices or protocols that we have in place. I've stated before, while my personal preference would be, I wish we were in a position where we had mass choice. I would still be sending my own kids to school with their masks, and that's something that they don't mind doing. Notwithstanding that, and I do appreciate the fact that the state mandate for student vaccination is still pending full FDA approval, and thankfully tentatively becomes effective no earlier than July 1st, 2022. I would hope that when and if the time were to come where that to become an actual mandate to be executed or carried through, that there would be some opposition on behalf of the board and the district to that. I am very much, notwithstanding any conversation about mass and mass choice, effectiveness of mass or ineffectiveness of mass, I do very much believe in the right of parents to dictate what goes into their children's bodies. And so I do think, and I'm grateful that this is something that's relatively far off, and I'm hopeful that before we get to that point, that maybe things in the broader world will have changed. There was always part of me that felt that just perhaps the governor dangled this out there as a carrot and stick to get more adults to get vaccinated, so it would bring the overall infections down throughout the state, and not necessitate us having to go through this sort of mandate for our children in our schools. But again, appreciate the report, and I think we're all going to continue to watch the ever-changing data on this, and hope that we don't have to get to a point where they're mandated to vaccinate our children.
Thank you, Mr. Zane. Yes, Ms. O'Connor-Radcliffe.
In the name of board discussion, I'm a little disappointed to hear you say that, Mr. Zane. Can you clarify, are you anti any vaccines or just this one? Because we have a lot of vaccines that are required for our students to attend school.
It's a broader conversation perhaps for another time, but I just feel differently. I know others do. I think this is a different type of vaccine than others that are out there. I don't see necessarily, in my view, there's a mandate for a COVID-19 vaccine for kids, but we're not mandating a flu vaccine for kids, right? I think there's just some inconsistencies that I'm not comfortable with, and I think that again, some of these decisions as far as what goes into our children's bodies ought to be left to parents to decide.
Well, and on that note, though, we're seeing a lot of litigation as it's coming in for corporations being mandated to have vaccines, and there's going to be a lot of discussion and court cases prior to a mandate for schools in California. So I think that this conversation might be premature because I think come June or May, we'll have a different picture out there, which might change how the discussion goes.
I agree. That's kind of been
what we've seen over the past 2+ years. And it's just wait a month or a week, sometimes even shorter, 24 hours or less before a board meeting. And the world changes, mandates change. So I agree, President Couvret.
I have no doubt that there will be a lot of additional information that comes from all kinds of places before there's a mandate for this particular vaccine. However, I don't see an MD after any of our names. And having a discussion about not following through on a new mandate would mean dismissing that scientific and medical consensus, the experts, as well as I think all of our legal and moral obligations as district leaders. I'm disappointed in the discussion. I love that you want to push it off. I think that's appropriate, but I just want to state here and now that I'm not happy with where this is going, how you're spinning this.
Well, one of my concerns, and like I said, I think it'll be good for when we talk in May or whatever, is we're seeing a lot of children that were very impacted having not be able to go to school in person. And I know that I have a very large fear and heartache that there'll be a number of kids that are not able to come back to school because of that. And like I said, it's a concern, but it's premature. And we have a lot to learn and observe. And like I said, hopefully in 3 or 4 months, we'll see a big change in numbers and confidence, and this conversation won't be necessary.
And I certainly hope that the board will take the advice of public health experts and medical experts when we enter into this discussion, if we have to do so.
Any other comments at this point? Okay, thank you, Ms. Osborne, very much for that. And we are going on to 10.0, Technology and Innovation. 10.1 is an information presentation, the Connect Academy update. Ms. Burks, Dr. Burks.
Thank you, Madam President. As you know, PUSD's virtual K-8 learning pathway was launched at the beginning of the 2021-2022 school year. Tonight, Jill Halsey, Director of Connect Academy and Digital Learning, is here to provide an update to the board.
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Phelps, and Cabinet. My name is Jill Halsey, the proud Director of Connect Academy and Digital Learning. I am honored to be here with you this evening to share an update on Connect Academy, our K-8 digital learning option, which serves over 425 amazing Poway Unified School District learners. Connect Academy expands on the traditional independent study model to offer students an innovative and flexible learning option focused on culture, community, and connectedness. This option for families meets the requirements outlined in AB 130 and is learner-centered and future-ready by intentional design. Next slide, please. Connect Academy aligns with our Poway Unified School District vision. Together, we are rethinking and redesigning our school to meet our learners' needs. The mission is to build a personalized, future-focused, independent study offering to support and inspire strengths and passions while developing resilience, kindness, courage, creativity, and empathy. We are continuing to establish the norms and expectations to drive innovation for years to come in order to serve learners who are thriving in a virtual learning environment. Next slide, please. As families explore options to meet their learners' needs, we see a demand across grade levels for a flexible independent study option. In fact, we continue to have a wait list for our kindergarten. Every day, we work together to learn, grow, and support our families and learners. Our highly dedicated staff is eager to work together as a team, create solutions, and show their resilience and excitement for teaching and learning. I continue to be absolutely honored and humbled to work with these incredible, talented educators at Connect Academy. Next slide, please. Our guiding principles inform our habits and daily routines to ensure we build culture and community for all students. We know students are more engaged and successful when they are connected to their teacher and other learners. Success at Connect Academy includes layers of support
which include response to intervention and instruction, social emotional learning, one-on-one reflection meetings with their educators, and positive behavior intervention and supports. Students have opportunities to pursue passions and interests, learn about themselves, and experience the culture and condition for world-class learning. Next slide, please. When I zoom into classrooms and drop in on lessons, which is so much fun, I see amazing work, engaged students, and deep, relevant learning. I see these design elements come to life all the time. Relationships, critical thinking, collaboration, student agency, computer science, and digital arts. Diversity, empathy, access, and inclusion define our shared values and our design of authentic learning experiences. Students are bringing the learning forward, excited about what they're exploring and researching. They're asking questions to each other, and they're actively seeking and consuming information. With our focus on computer science and digital arts, we launched Tinker. So sometimes we call it Tinker Tuesday, the world's leading K-12 creative coding platform, as well as Adobe Creative Cloud. Learners have voice and choice as they showcase their knowledge through the use of technology, media, and digital tools. Next slide, please. K-8 Connect Time begins at a consistent time with a class meeting. This is focused on common messaging, K-8, around culture and connection, such as Mindful Monday, Staying Connected Tuesday, or Thought-Provoking Thursday. There is a balance of teacher explicit direct instruction and learner-driven time. Learners use our Poway Learning Management System, Canvas, to engage in collaboration, accessing tasks, and engage in offline and online learning. Our team consistently elicits feed forward from our learners to drive the instruction. Learners are part of the instructional planning and design process at Connect Academy. So I'm excited to share our Connect Academy video that highlights best practices, learning, and the amazing culture and community we are creating. Are we able to? So I'm not able to hear it. Are you all able to hear it? Okay.
I would stop sharing and then reshare, and then make sure you click the box where it says share.
Is to create culture.
There we go.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jennifer Burks, and I'm the Associate Superintendent of Technology and Innovation. Our goal in Poway Unified School District is to create culture and conditions to empower world-class learners. And we are so excited to share about Connect Academy, our new K-8 virtual school, which provides an innovative and flexible approach to instruction.
Oh, do you want it full screen? It's looks like it's supposed to be inside that box.
Yeah, he wants it full screen.
Okay.
Hold on, hold on. Can you share this out?
Hi, my name is Jill Halsey, the Director of Connect Academy and Digital Learning. We are a learner-centered, future-focused program here to inspire and support strengths, interests, and passions while building courage, empathy, kindness, and resilience in each and every learner to ensure a world-class learning environment. At Connect Academy, we value culture, connection, and community. I am super excited for you to hear from our team and to see the learning in action. I chose Connect Academy Academy because I love that our students get to tap into their passions and that we get to really be innovative with our teaching styles and make sure that all students' voices are heard and they have awesome flexibility. We want them to have the opportunity to do everything that you would do inside of a classroom outside. We want them to have the opportunity to read books, write poetry, write stories, examine like a scientist outside, listen to music, maybe do yoga. So we have a vision to create a beautiful outdoor space for our Connect Academy students. What we're excited about is real life learning. We're trying to impact while also just recognizing this is real, this is life, this connects to all over the world. Not only do we have the opportunity to teach them virtually, but we also have the opportunity to bring them on campus in this outdoor learning space, but blend in technology. So imagine our students outside in this space using iPads to create their own videos, to make their own books, and in a multi-age experience from kindergarten through 8th grade. We are Connect Academy. We are Connect Academy.
At Connect Academy, we are meeting the needs of a new breed of learner. We're building groundbreaking online courses that not only focus on core knowledge, but the student's ability to integrate and apply that knowledge to solve problems and challenges of the future.
Students at Connect Academy get the skills, the knowledge, and the know-how in a 21st century learning environment that allows their creativity and imagination to shine.
Here, we provide unique ways for students to demonstrate their learning, to think creatively, to communicate effectively, and work collaboratively. It's an amazing environment, a great place to work, and students are doing incredible things.
At Connect Academy, we are blending a digital and in-person experience to create a new type of learning. Currently, second graders are rocking Jamboard and collaborating on our current learning themes, like discovering about firefighters and taking virtual field trips. Lastly, we are loving our science experiments here at Connect Academy. We're learning about buoyancy with dunking cookies and testing boats to float. I hope you join us on Zoom someday so you can see what second graders are learning.
I feel that way because this is something really new to me, and this is an adventure on Connect Academy. I feel good, like I'm going into first grade, I'm going into second grade, I'm sorry. I'm just so excited.
So I hope that brings lots of smiles to your face, because when I watch that, I get goosebumps from the kindergarten sending the I love you sign to their educator, and just makes me so proud of our team, our learners, and none of that could be possible without the continued support from all of you. So thank you very much. Hi, actually, can we go back one slide? Perfect, thank you. So high quality teaching and learning continues to set PUSD apart to ensure universal access to our world-class learning experiences. In alignment with best practices and research on supporting independent learners, our balanced instructional model is designed to blend together direct instruction and student inquiry. At Connect Academy, we lead with assessment to ensure that we facilitate relevant and rigorous learning. Our balanced instructional and learning model intentionally includes what we call colossal questions, interdisciplinary units to build student agency, and foster inquiry in a relevant and meaningful way. Connect Academy students advocate, manage their time, and have a growth mindset. Students have access to their teachers during online instructional times via office hours, appointments, and are readily available to support learning. In addition to high quality teaching and learning, we have thoughtful, forward-thinking ways to measure our learners' progress. Assessment is part of the flow of our instructional design. We use multiple measures such as PUSD benchmark assessments, writing prompts, as well as student-generated prompts and student explanation of learning. Our learners use adaptive programs such as iReady and Lexia to support personalization and growth. Next slide, please. To build upon students' strengths, interests, and passions, our team created this,
Curiosity Cabinet. Curiosity Cabinet is a unique student-driven and student-organized time to explore career and life pathways each Friday. Showing our students the relevance in learning is essential. We know connecting learning to real-life application is the future of education. And now Dr. Burks will share our future focus and next steps.
Thank you. I just love that video. Next slide, please. As we close, I would like to thank the board for positioning us to meet both current and future mandates and to be responsive to our community. Both Director Halsey and I would like to extend our gratitude to the entire Connect Academy team, our learners, and our families. Thank you to Dr. Phelps, the board, the entire technology and innovation team, maintenance and operations, and Park Village Elementary School for believing in and supporting Connect Academy. Moving forward, staff will continue to engage in ongoing communication with our families. A family survey will soon be going out to gather feedback and input. Additionally, staff continues to engage our learners in Feed Forward to ensure we are meeting the needs of each and every student. And lastly, in early 2022, we will begin surveying families regarding their continued interest in Connect Academy as we begin to prepare for the 2022-2023 registration window. Students are thriving at Connect Academy, and our prediction is that interest and enrollment will remain stable, if not continue to grow. Next slide. This does conclude our presentation for this evening, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you both for that fantastic presentation. I've been wanting to come by and see it in action because it sounds like it's just amazing. And I have to say, this is one good thing that came out of COVID because it forced us to go online, and all these tools that you guys learned so fast, it's fun to see them develop and give options to our kids. And not all kids learn the same way in the same medium. And I'm just so excited that we have this other option for kids. And I'm eager to see the results of your surveys and assessments, just to see where we came from and where we're going and how we continue, which will be great. Comments and questions from the rest? Fantastic, Ms. O'Connor-Radcliffe.
It sounds like you guys have taken, what was happening last year for everyone and made it much, much better with that one day in person element as well. I'm curious because looking at the enrollment data, the school has lost 9 elementary students and gained 4 middle school students. With that shift just in a couple months, how do you keep the class balances? How do you do that? Are we allowing people to transfer in and out right now? It just seems like this would be a really difficult thing to allow. How's that working? I guess I'm asking Principal Halsey or Dr. Burks.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. So one of the things is we honor requests out. We have 5 instructional days to do that, as well as requests in. And our educators have done phenomenal with meeting one-on-one with the learners and families to catch them up, as well as make thoughtful transitions back to brick and mortar sites. So we're just working through it through connections and one-on-one meetings.
Anyone else? Comments? Dr. Seitzma.
Yeah, thank you very much for that presentation. I'm definitely a fan of hybrid models and giving students options. Just a couple of questions. Can you remind us where the when they do go in person, where is that? What school is that at?
We are housed at Park Village Elementary.
At Park Village, okay. And is there a schedule? Like, do they coordinate? Because you said one day a week, but you got K-8. I mean, are they all there on the same day? I mean, 428 students being added to Park Village's active life there. Can you just give us a little bit picture of the in-person time?
Absolutely. Great question. So for example, not each grade level comes on a once a week basis. So for example, our kindergartners come on campus opportunities are optional. They come on Wednesdays. We just had our fourth graders on campus about a week and a half ago to have some hands-on experiences around Gold Rush days. Our second graders are coming the week we return from break for some hands-on learning around art. So we're building it as we go, being thoughtful of the impact on Park Village and also making sure that we're having meaningful experiences in person.
Okay, so it's not like consistent yet.
Not yet. But for kindergarten, it is. The other grade levels are coming along. We had third grade in maybe 2 weeks ago to work on some design thinking exercises. And then we Zoom in students who aren't able to attend in-person experiences.
And are the teachers physically on site there, or are they from home? So there was enough space to create, or are they sharing rooms and to hold their session times?
Yes. So we get to go into the building every day into Connect Academy, and it is shared workspaces, which was a transition. And now we absolutely love it. We call each other roommates. So there are many teachers in a classroom, sometimes 3 or 4. It makes for a really great collaborative environment.
Okay. Thank you. I hope to come by soon to see it.
Come anytime.
Thank you.
Dr. Patel?
Yeah, kind of a follow-up to what Dr. Seitzma was asking. It kind of triggered a question. Since students aren't on campus every week or even every other week, do we have a way of assessing their social emotional well-being? I saw that you had a slide of how I'm feeling. So seems like we are able to check in and see that this virtual environment, being virtual all the time, is okay for these kids. I know there was a lot of anxiety from parents and educators around students being virtual for long extended periods of time, but it seems like we're able to address that through your program.
We are. So we do social emotional check-ins every day during Connect time. There's a theme. So we have Second Step, Alive and Well in our elementary. We use the Jostens SEL program in middle school. And each of our teachers have really great relationships with kids. That culture, community, and connectedness allows us to have insight into how they're doing.
And about what is the student-teacher ratio?
Same.
That sounds amazing.
Yes, it is the same as Poway Unified. We have the same class-to-teacher ratio.
Thank you.
Of course.
Anything else? That was a wonderful update. So thank you. I'm glad things are going so well. It's exciting.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, well then on that, we move to 11.0. 11.1 is an action item, approval to conduct the regularly scheduled PUSD Board Meeting of Education meeting commencing December 16th, 2021 online via virtual video conferencing pursuant to AB 361. Dr. Phelps.
Actually, President Kubrat, there's some public comment.
Yes,
Okay.
we do have public comment.
Fantastic. I thank you for letting me know. Let's hear them.
Okay, item 11.1, virtual meetings. Our first public comment comes from employee X. Employee X, go ahead and unmute. It's your turn to speak.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Phelps, and Cabinet. I am an employee of the district office, and the interactions I've had with some of these protesters has made me feel anxious, scared, and concerned about what these people might do. I'm fearful of any further actions by them. It's no fun coming. Oh. Did I lose you?
No, we hear you.
Oh, sorry. It's no fun coming to work wondering who might be following me or having to check if anyone is around when I leave the office after dark. No one wants to work in that kind of situation. Their actions are also distracting me from doing my job effectively. The protests outside our windows, the graffiti on our sidewalks, the invading of our lobby, and the verbal harassment forces us to take work time
to take pictures, document evidence, and wash graffiti off our sidewalks and parking lot multiple times a day. I'm tired of hearing about and seeing horrible scenarios across the country where tragic things happen, and then after the fact, it comes out that the people carrying out the horrific things were mentally unstable. It is clear to me that the actions of these protesters demonstrate that they are unstable and unpredictable, especially when you look at their social media. Therefore, are we just waiting to be the result of something tragic? Also, I'm tired of seeing board meetings around the country fall into chaos with violence, threats, and nonsensical rationale when district officials are only enforcing laws and guidance and protecting the lives of our children and staff. Therefore, I would like to keep the meetings virtual for everyone's safety until the protesters can learn to follow rules and regulations. They should be protesting masks in Sacramento, not Poway Unified. We live in a civilized society, and the very few vocal protesting voices should not be representing the majority who do appreciate the actions of our board and superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is a little unusual, but I also signed up to speak in public comments if the board will hear it as an employee and stakeholder in this decision. Thank you.
You will still have to adhere to the 3 minutes.
Of course. Hello, board and cabinet. I felt compelled to speak as one of the few staff members who was actually in the boardroom on the day of September 9th, when, as you know, a group of protesters pushed their way past an employee into our closed building as staff were preparing for the board meeting. Honestly, everyone was in shock. About 30 unmasked protesters intruded into our place of work, and they all filed into the boardroom without any regard to the health and safety of others. I did my best to reason with the group. I let them know the building was closed to the public, asked them to leave. They refused. I then asked them to put their masks on for the safety of the unvaccinated children that were present. Again, they refused. I asked them to then wait in the lobby until we reached the item that was on the agenda that they were interested in so we could hear from them then. Again, they refused. We called police. Police officers did not want the situation to escalate, so they advised us to adjourn the meeting. This group got extremely agitated with staff, us that were in the room, as they waited for the board meeting to start. We didn't want to leave because we didn't want to allow the protesters to take over the boardroom. I felt that it was my job to stay there, but I started to feel unsafe as they started raising their voices. So I filmed the protesters with my cell phone for my own safety and for potential evidence against the trespassers. Now this infuriated them, even though they'd been filming us the whole time. And that's when the intimidation and screaming and abusive language started. They yelled profanities, called me a disgusting pig, among other things, looked at my name tag to know my name, and then started Googling me and taunting me with personal insults and information about me. At this point, my colleagues and I felt extremely unsafe because we felt the crowd was becoming angry and unpredictable. We had no choice but to leave the boardroom. I was able to act calmly, even afterward, when I was working with you, board members, on your statement. But what you didn't see was how extremely shaken up I was by this experience. I've never in my life felt so unsafe in my own workplace. And trust me, I was a reporter for 15 years and have witnessed some extremely dangerous things. But after that, for weeks, I relived those moments, traumatized and dreading the next board meeting. So thank you for wisely switching to virtual meetings. Now, members of this group have since shown the extreme measures they're willing to go to harass and bully you, board members, our superintendent, as well as staff. As you know, one protester was even served with a temporary restraining order because it's gotten so bad. So knowing all of this, keeping the board meeting virtual is a matter of protecting the health and safety of your staff who need a safe place to work and serve our students. Thank you. The next public comment comes from Christine Carrera. Christine, are you in the room? No, it doesn't look like it. Next public comment comes from Michelle Wilson-Manos. Michelle, it's your turn. Go ahead and unmute.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Manos, and I currently work at the district office. I am here tonight to speak in support of continuing to hold Board of Education meetings virtually. I would like to share what happened before the October 14th board meeting, because there were no film crews or news reporters that evening. Our department has windows directly looking into the parking lot, so unfortunately, we had a front row to what was to follow. On October 14th, the following occurred. All staff were informed the lobby was closed at 3 p.m. At about 3:20 or so, an employee reported that there was some kind of disturbance going on in the lobby. Looking toward the lobby, you could see the protesters with signs and cameras held up. One of the protesters turned their phones toward us, presumably to video or photograph us. This caused us to close and lock the black fire door leading to our wing of the building. 6 police cars pulled into the district office parking lot, one after another. We watched in disbelief as the police gathered zip tie handcuffs and walked toward the entrance of the building we all worked in. The police brought out one man in handcuffs and placed him in the back of a patrol car. About 10 minutes later, a woman was brought out, also in handcuffs. 2 other people from the group followed behind, filming the police and yelling at the police. 2 of the other officers went over to talk to them. An employee in my department who had completed her work shift and wanted to leave the building to pick up her children could not, because this disturbance was happening right where they had parked their car that morning when they came to work. And they did not feel safe going out there as 2 of the protesters were still in the vicinity of that car. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine having to peek out of a window to determine when it was safe for me to walk to my car. Never did I imagine having to open a side door carefully so that somebody else didn't try to sneak in. The disturbance I just described was for a board meeting that was pre-advertised as being a meeting that was going to be held virtually. If it were held in person, I can only imagine what chaos would have happened. I respectfully ask the Board of Education to adopt virtual format for all future board meetings this school year. I make this request for 2 very broad reasons. Our students deserve board meetings that can be held as scheduled so that decisions can be made and student focus can be maintained. And also for the safety of all employees working in the district office. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening.
Thank you. Our final comment comes from Kimberly Renz. Kimberly, go ahead and unmute, and it's your turn to speak.
Thank you and good evening. I want to thank the board tonight for maintaining virtual board meetings. As an executive director for the past 9 years, I attend every board meeting. The experience for PUSD staff and attendance in the months leading up to and during the September 9th board meeting and thereafter in the community room is very unsettling. PUSD prides itself on engaging with students, parents and guardians, and community members. We want to hear the voice of our partners. However, we must do so in a respectful manner with health and safety in mind. Until we can recreate an environment for physical and emotional safety for all who wish to attend meetings, I appreciate you maintaining a virtual setting for board meetings. The experience of September 9th is not one I want to repeat due to the level of disrespect for guidelines and rules. As a staff member, I want all staff to feel safe as we continue to serve our students, staff, and families. Thank you for your continued support and everything that you do for our district.
Thank you, Ms. Renz, and that concludes our public comment on this agenda item.
Thank you. Dr. Phelps?
Yes, so we are asking the Board of Education for their approval to conduct the regularly scheduled PUSD Board of Education meeting on December 16th, 2021, online via virtual video conferencing, pursuant to AB 361, due to the current imminent risk to the health and safety of staff and board members. Following the September disruption of the board meeting, the actions of the anti-mask protesters have been escalating. Last month on October 14th, two protesters were arrested after they refused to leave the district office after the building was closed to the public. A couple of weeks ago, a board member received a death threat against themselves and their child. I myself have had protesters stalking my home on various occasions as early as 6 a.m. on a Sunday and as late as 9 p.m. on Saturday and weeknights, coming to my home, trespassing through a locked gate, and coming directly to my front door, knocking and ringing my doorbell. This type of behavior is not okay. It's not okay when people have anxiety coming to work or going to their home for fear of not knowing what to expect by their unpredictable and strange behavior. All of the board members have also received visits to their homes by these same protesters, and some on multiple occasions. Last week, one of the arrested protesters returned to the district office over several days in a row to graffiti our sidewalks and our schools, as well as harass employees. Yesterday, a judge issued a temporary restraining order on one of the protesters, prohibiting them from access to school district schools and property. Contrary to the earlier comment that you heard from the public commenter, pretty confident that if there wasn't any evidence of illegal or inappropriate activity, a judge would not approve or issue this TRO. As you heard from some of the public comments this evening, these actions, as well as the actions of others, are escalating, creating fear, and causing anxiety for staff. Therefore, in protection of our staff and our employees, I feel that due to the continued imminent risk to health and safety of staff and board members, we recommend that the board continue to approve conducting our regular scheduled board meeting online via virtual video conferencing. We hope to be able to open up our board meetings as soon as it is safe to do so, but until that time, staff recommends that we meet virtually and online.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Are there some comments or questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second, yeah.
A second?
think-
Now, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to throw in, I think the public comments here are, they're very compelling. We're not the only district who's going virtual at this time. I looked it up. We've got Carlsbad, Vista, San Diego Unified, Escondido. We are not an outlier here in holding virtual meetings, despite what some out there are trying to claim. Protecting the health and safety of not just our staff, but also all the meeting attendees, including our young students. And how about the law-abiding community members who want to be here? The staff who are required to be present, we heard from them already. This is a top concern and a top priority for us, at least it should be. We're still working on the safety plan. We're still working out what's gonna be successful for us. I do want to point out that this is not forever. This is not for the rest of the school year. This is for our December meeting. I think a lot can happen. A lot of people can calm down. A lot of people, I guess, let me stop there and leave it to other people with this closing idea that we really have had an unprecedented level of access and public participation at this point in our virtual meetings. We've never had this many people. Comments are way, way up. And the people watching online, we've never had this many. I know it's not ideal, but there are some real positives to staying virtual. These are families of young children, perhaps, our students, who could never make it out at 6 p.m. on a Thursday night, but they can make it virtually. They can take their 10 minutes to wait for their turn to speak in public comment when they care deeply about an issue. And I think we've heard tonight, a lot of people are able to do that now who never would be before. I'm not advocating that we never go back to in-person. I think that's an important aspect of what we do. And there is something missing when you don't have face-to-face contact. But I think at this point, you can't deny the health and safety issues here. We have some real concerns, and I think they're real.
Thank you. Mr. Zane.
Thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, I should begin by saying very powerful public comment. And I don't think any of us should ever minimize or discount the fears and concerns of others. They're very real. And people feel things and have a sense of fear about things differently. I am not opposed to this on its surface. What I am not in favor of is making this decision now. The preface, the lead up to this, the introduction on this item was to make this decision based upon current risk. My only preference would be that we have this decision. We've done this twice already. We've held a special to make a decision as to whether or not to hold the next meeting virtually based upon the risk at the time we held that special meeting, roughly a week before the meeting. I think it's a little premature. I think this is done more so out of convenience in our processes to decide this now on November 19th for a meeting on December 16th. And I don't think convenience ought to be the bar upon which we make these decisions. I think everything that's been stated is absolutely credible and a perfectly legitimate reason for voting in favor of holding the December 16 meeting virtually. But I think the decision to do so is premature. I would advocate that it was my preference that we not have this agendized this evening. I would have preferred that a special meeting be held to assess the current risks, as was stated, roughly a week before the December 16th meeting. I think that would be more appropriate and a more judicious approach and a signaling to the community that we're not making these decisions close to a full month out from the next meeting.
Dr. Patel?
I think actually at this time, it's most efficient to make this decision now so that we can start planning appropriately the steps that are necessary to actually get to a point where we can open in person. There's a lot of work ahead of us that we have to do. We have to fully develop the safety plan. We have to collaborate with our law enforcement and make sure that they are in alignment with what we've proposed. We have to clear it with our legal. There are a lot of steps that we have to go through. We have to work out whether we're going to have security at the front door and how we're going to arrange that security. Who are we going to hire to check vaccination status of our guests that come in? Who's going to enforce the masking policy indoors? There's a lot of logistics that need to be worked out, all while we're doing the daily operations of our school district. There's a lot going on an everyday basis. And to schedule a special when we know that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we're not going to be there. We're not going to have all this buttoned up by that point in time. I think it's possible we could have it buttoned up by January, though. I think if we're not focused in getting this done, it's going to take possibly even a closed session item on our board safety to get this done. That certainly won't happen before our next meeting either. So I think at this point, to put everyone at ease and allow a cooling off period for people to decide how they want to proceed forward, I think it's best to just get this done now and not have to bring it up again and again.
I'm not suggesting that all the things you just enumerated would actually be done in time for the December 6th meeting. And those things that are not done would certainly be taken into consideration at a special a week or so prior to the December 16th meeting, should we have one. And then that would be weighed into a decision as well, in addition to the current risks at the time, a week prior to the December 16th meeting.
Ms. Sue?
I believe that the current motion to have the December 16th board meeting virtual is a clear preventative action in response to the current events that are currently happening. I believe that the public comments that we've heard, the testimonies that we've heard from our district staff and our leaders show that there is a clear threat upon public trust, public safety, and public health, that we need to address it in a proper board meeting right now. I was the only board member who was present in the community room on September 9th, while the other 5 board members were sequestered upstairs. And I witnessed, staff being pushed aside by unmasked protesters. I witnessed our student representatives panicked, alarmed in our community room, being crowded and jammed against each other because protesters filing in, and we don't know their vaccination status, they're unmasked. And I absolutely echo Dr. Patel's sentiments that we need the proper safety procedures after September 9th, where we saw the police officers didn't step in. We had law enforcement, on September 9th, and now we're on the November 18th board meeting, and we still do not have proper safety procedures for our board meetings for the rest of the year. So I absolutely support this decision right now to move our board meetings virtually. I believe that it is a matter of convenience, because it's convenient for community members to know that we will be having a public board meeting virtually so that they can prepare accordingly.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment kind of off of what Dr. Patel was saying, and kind of why I wanted this to be an agenda item so we could talk about it, is I'd like to start a path to finally going back. Not that it means we're going back in December or in January, but what do we need to do to get safely back in person? I completely respect our staff and want everyone to feel safe, and that's one of the parameters that we have to get over before we can go back. But do we need to meet with law enforcement? Do we need to set up protocols? Do we need to have 2 weeks of quiet? What is it that we need? What standards need to be met so that we can move back? Because, when we're dealing with people's education, there's always going to be hot topics. We're always going to have people who are, I can be a mama bear, and I understand there's always going to be things coming up that's going to get parents activated, and that's wonderful. We want that, but safe and following our protocols. So I guess, what I wanted out of this conversation, and is how can we start getting that in order so we can start to see going back in person? And can staff maybe work on that and present a plan at the December meeting? Yes, Mr. Zane.
Thank you, President Kudret. Again, not disagreeing with the word that you just said. And as much as Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe can make clear of what she is or is not advocating, let me make clear what I'm not advocating. I'm not advocating that we not hold December 16th board meeting virtually. I'm simply advocating that decision is premature and not to be done out of matter of convenience this evening. I could be very fully supportive of doing a virtual meeting at the December 16th meeting at a decision to be made closer to the December 16th meeting. I think it's premature to make it now.
Mr. What would help you make that decision? You haven't said. Time will help you make that decision. What would change?
Yes, and a current assessment of the risks a week prior to the December 16th meeting. Let's have this.
So what would change? We're weighing how many social media posts we see, whether everyone's been arrested. What are we looking at?
A moment ago, someone suggested something along the lines of like a 2-week cooling off period. Well, there's more than 2 weeks between now and the next board meeting. I'm suggesting the world could look like a different place in 3 weeks. Let's have a special meeting and make the decision then. I'm not opposed to doing virtually. I voted for it twice now. And I think the rationale for holding the virtual board meetings has shifted as well. Initially, it was COVID-based, now it's security-based. Both are legitimate, but let's have the conversation closer to the actual board meeting.
Well, to look at while I appreciate your optimism that things will change, I don't see that happening. I actually see things escalating. I see escalating personal attacks. But my concerns are really around not necessarily that aspect of it, but our processes for keeping our public safe, our staff safe in the meeting room, including masking and vaccination status and COVID negative status of all the people that enter into that building. So as far as I know, we don't have that well defined at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. I was gonna say it still is about health. We don't have any way we don't have the personnel to make sure to enforce a mask or a vaccine card mandate into our meetings. We don't have that right now. We don't have that in place. I don't think that changes in the next 2 weeks.
Dr. Phelps?
So to address Mr. Zane's concerns, to the contrary, if the board votes to support this tonight, if the circumstances does change, The board always can make the decision to switch to in-person if all of a sudden we feel that all the imminent fears and risks are gone. The board always has the right to turn back to in-person and make that decision prior to the board meeting without even a special board meeting. Because AB 361 and voting on it 30 days in advance is only to say that you're going to go virtual. The default is always to be in person. So that wouldn't even require a special board meeting. So if a week before we find that everything's great and people feel great and everything's safe and we have things in place and we want to meet in person, you can do that. And we're able to do that. To President Couvret's point, staff, and you asked, what do we need? We need to know, does the board want us to look into hiring security at every board meeting? Do you want us to require vaccination cards? Do you want us to look for proof of vaccination? Like, what staff needs direction as to what is the board looking for when you're talking about making the space or the meeting safe enough for us to return in person.
Well, on that note, I do believe that we need to have either security out there checking vaccination status or negative tests. I don't believe our staff is trained to handle that. I think that's something that paid security would be more appropriate for, and that would be a controlled entrance. But those are important steps. I just think it's time to go ahead and start writing these down and investigating and getting a plan set up so that we can ultimately go back. So,
and all of that work isn't dependent upon our vote this evening. That's going to continue regardless. We're not waiting until December 16th to start that work. So again, I just think it's a matter of, I think we owe it to the broader community to make these decisions a little bit more judiciously. We need not do it a month ahead of the next meeting. I think we may end up with the same result, a decision to go virtual December 16th, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just the timing. I'm not a big fan of the timing on this decision.
any more comments?
I'm curious to know whether at this time we're supposed to be discussing the things we would need to get to that point, or will that happen at a different time?
What direction would you like, Dr. Phelps? Because I don't want to keep pushing it down because I know that it's going to be a process to get our meetings open. So how much direction do we need to give you today so that we can have, the rough draft of a plan at our December meeting?
Additionally, I would like to know whether security is the appropriate personnel to check vaccination status. I don't know that security staff do that work, and whether we would need to have a second set of people to do mask enforcement, vaccination check, negative test status.
You're correct. Security is not qualified to do that. We would have to hire additional staff. So in addition to hiring the security for each board meeting, we would have to hire staff to check vaccination cards and status. But again, if that's something that the board wants to require as far as part of entrancing into a board meeting, I just want to kind of forewarn you that the group that pushed themselves in September didn't even listen to law enforcement when asked nicely to leave. I really doubt that they're going to adhere to any mask requirement or requirement to show proof of vaccination. So at that point, then, are we expecting staff to engage in confrontation? Are we expecting staff to put themselves between them and the protesters? Because when the one protester pushed her way in, the staff member ran away because she was afraid, because the protester refused to leave when asked to do so.
Additionally, Dr. Phelps, security wouldn't be able to remove anyone from the premises or arrest anyone.
Correct.
That would have to be law enforcement. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So do we say there's not an incident for 3 weeks, then the next board meeting can happen? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a metrics person. How are we going to determine when we don't expect these people to kind of barge in? I mean,
I don't think we have that knowledge. I don't think we can make that prediction. At this time, I think what's prudent is we go ahead and move forward with scheduling this as a virtual meeting. And as Dr. Phelps indicated, if everything does look safe, we can always agendize it as an in-person meeting, provided that we have all the logistics in place and all the safety plans in place, including, having clear expectations of law enforcement, what the support that law enforcement will provide us. Because, I don't know, it's not clear that they would do anything to help us enforce a masking policy indoors. I don't have any assurance of that at this time.
They will not. The police will not enforce masking or vaccination status verification.
So I think we can all imagine the scenarios of what is possible. So until we can find ways to mitigate around that to ensure that our staff doesn't have a hostile work environment, that our public, when they come, can feel safe, our members of the public who are law-abiding, who want to be there to express opinions about their students' education, that they can feel safe, even if they're supporting district initiatives, that they can feel safe. So I think we have some work to do between now and our December meeting. And I'd like to see that happen before we go back in person. Well, and like the other board members have said, I'm not looking at doing this forever. I just want to make sure we have a plan. That's all. I'm just trying to be practical and reasonable here.
I completely agree with you. I just want the plan to happen, I guess is where I'm at. And are there other districts that are in person? Because if they have resolved some of these issues and roadblocks that we're coming up against, I have no issue borrowing their ideas. So it'd be interesting to find out some other districts that have had issues that have gone back, what they did.
Actually, more districts are going virtual. They're going the other direction, as well as like county offices. And, you see it all across the country. Most are going the opposite direction. The districts that are open, most of them are small rural districts in the East County.
Well, we have a motion on the floor in a second. Are we ready for a vote? Okay, all those in favor of making the meeting virtual, say aye. I actually have 4 ayes, and on mine, I'm just going to say I'm looking forward to seeing
Ms. Zhu can also vote on this item.
Ms. Zhu, aye. So there's 5 in favor. Do I have any opposed? And 1 opposed. Motion carries that the meeting will be virtual on December 16th. So now we're going to move to 12.1 and go to board member reports, and we get to start with our student board member, Ms. Sue.
Good evening, everyone. For this past, is the audio echoing?
I'm not hearing you.
Hello?
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. For this past month, board member O'Connor Ratcliffe and I were able to hold office hours for our students at Westview High School. I'm sure Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe will expand more in her board reports, but I thought that I would discuss a little of the student feedback that we were able to receive in this brief lunch office hour event that we held on November 4th. Number 1 is that students are looking to contact their board members and their district leaders just to learn more about how we gauge public opinion, how we make decisions, how we even set the budget. So I think that's really interesting that students are looking towards, specific personal one-on-one contact with their district representatives and their trustees. And second, we are looking towards the recent Mental Health Days Absence Day Code amending that was enacted by our past student board member, Emily Bilsma. So I'm hoping to work with our principals, our counselors across our Poway Unified High Schools just to have more solidified stipulations around the Mental Health Days procedures, just so that students are aware of the mental health day resources that they're receiving, what happens if they use a specific number. So just making it more public knowledge of the mental health day's absence code agenda that was passed last year. And we're also looking towards clearer communication between students, administration, and just widespread knowledge across all of our secondary schools, our elementary schools and middle schools. We heard a lot of comments from high schoolers that they don't receive a lot of their information because most of it goes to their parents, who sometimes don't pass that information along. So we're looking at students trying to find clear paths of communication just to get more logistical information at schools. And lastly, we are looking at students who are interested in gauging how we as the governing board get public opinion. So Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe and I were able to briefly explain things like the LCAP, different surveys that we conduct throughout the year. So I think that in the future for my remaining board term, I think it'd be interesting to hold different seminars that educate students on the local control and accountability, teaching students about how they can have clear forms of communication with their representatives. And yeah, I think it was a really, really interesting event. I'm really appreciative of Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe for organizing this. And that was the event of my past month. And that concludes my board report.
Thank you. What a wonderful event. Dr. Seitzma.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, hopefully I can lighten things up just a little bit. It's been a busy month and I've enjoyed being present for several events around our district. I'm going to highlight just a few. I was honored to be able to interact a bit with the Poway High School Engineering Academy as they were presented with the Nationally Distinguished Award. This is an impressive group of brilliant students. My knowledge of engineering pales by comparison to any of them. Speaking of brilliant, Tierra Bonita Elementary School. This little school was jam-packed with celebrations and announcements this month. First, in conjunction with Del Sur Elementary, they introduced their Japanese immersion program. There were so many dignitaries from the local and not so local Japanese community that has worked tirelessly with the teams at these two schools to bring this program to life. I am so excited for the students to be able to have this kind of exposure. Next, I have to recognize Steph Cole, president of the Tierra Bonita Elementary, whose tenacity and out-of-the-box thinking put their PTA on the map again as a nationally recognized school of excellence. Congratulations to the Tierra Bonita PTA. I'm not done. I was back at Tierra Bonita last week for the ribbon cutting ceremony for their newly designed innovation station. This once typical classroom space is now a hub beaming with opportunities for students to test their broadcasting skills, put their STEM knowledge to the test, and create objects on 3D printers. I met so many amazing staff and volunteers whose pride could be felt as they saw their vision for a creative space for their students come to fruition. Congratulations again to Tierra Bonita. There are Red Ribbon Week celebrations going on around the district all month. What I thought was going to be a brief visit at Meadowbrook Middle School to see their festivities turned into something much more. I had the distinct pleasure of being a judge for the red carpet stretch your stuff walk. Principal Brownlee is so much fun to watch her interact with her students, and she is an amazing DJ. The criteria was kids had to be wearing red. I was there for both lunch periods. I gotta say, those 6th graders got some moves. They definitely outstrutted the 7th and the 8th graders. I bounced from session to session during the district's virtual CTE showcase last month. The presentation options were overwhelming. As I bounced around, I was truly amazed by the number of students who were in attendance. I would have spent more time listening to the presentations, but I entered one room where representatives from several performing arts schools were discussing their programs. My daughter took my computer up to her room so she could learn more. I guess it was a success. Finally, while I saw so many amazing events happen this past month at Garden Road, I need to highlight one in particular. Principal McGuire is truly exceptional and very brave, but my new favorite memory of her that will stick with me was when she allowed the class who raised the most funds for their fun run to saran wrap her to a basketball pole so they could throw water balloons at her. Those kids will never forget that moment. It brings to light we are a week from Thanksgiving. Across the district, our children are creating memories that will stick with them for a lifetime. That is something to be thankful for. I hope you all take the time to reflect on what you are thankful for. We have all come a long way from where we were a year ago. Enjoy the bountiful feast and company of those you hold dear. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Dr. Seitzma. Ms. O'Connor-Radcliffe.
Thank you, President Couvret. I think Dr. Seitzma described the Tierra Bonita extravaganzas very thoroughly. I don't have to get into that again. I will say, though, that PTA School of Excellence is a very rare recognition, and only Creekside Elementary had ever previously received it in our district, to my knowledge, at least in recent memory. Their new Japanese language program is also really remarkable. I'm very excited about that. Our director of global languages has been busy. And I say that too, because I was also part of the group that met with the Foundation for Korean Language and Culture this past month to talk about funding so that we can get our Korean language program restarted at Design 39 and possibly bridge over to Del Norte High School. So this is all very exciting. Keep up the good work in this area. Special education, action, lots of action here this past month too. Several parent ambassador meetings. This program is really starting to take flight now. Gathering some parents to review our 39 school plans for student achievement, those SIPSAs, and look at it through a disability lens. I think this is really important and really has improved our plans this year. And I think it'll only get better in the future. There was also an excellent Community Advisory Committee parent information night with much of the information provided by our special education directors. So it was really wonderful about IEPs and what to expect. And I will say that the regular CAC meeting from last night resulted in me taking 2 pages of notes. So I've got a lot to talk about and debrief with Dr. Phelps in the future here, in your future. Other highlights, I can't say enough about the office hours on campus at Westview High School with Miss Yu. That was really kind of an inspiration, and I kind of crossed my fingers and hoped it would work, and it really, really exceeded my expectations. There were over a dozen students who came in. I think many of them may have been dragged there physically by our student board member, but they were a wonderful group. The conversation never stopped. It really was exceptional. Just to chat, ask all of those questions, share their perspective. There was a little give and take that has to happen, and I think they were, I'm trying with Instagram, I really am, but you need to try, students, with email. So a little generational give and take there, and the civic engagement, they really want to know what's going on. They really want to be part of it. So I'm really excited to do this again. At Westview, yes, but hey, what's up, Mount Carmel? Coming at you next. And speaking of Mount Carmel, it takes me to the next one. I had a wonderful time celebrating one of the newest Mount Carmel Hall of Fame inductees, my former basketball teammate from high school, Chris Grazzini, and we stopped in together to watch a Mount Carmel girls basketball scrimmage that was going on in the gym and to meet with the current coach. And he shared how much those girls who are on the team now really, really value the legacy of alumni coming in, and he was really excited, hoping to have an alumni scrimmage at some point. I mean, I don't know, I just dislocated my shoulder. I'm really not sure I'm up for it, but it was a lot of fun. The gym brings back a lot of wonderful memories.
And I will say another great highlight of my month was our first Equity Advisory Committee meeting. My favorite part was time in the breakout rooms for smaller group discussions. And my group was an impressive bunch. Many of them were new to the district. And that was interesting. They were not shy to speak up about what they'd experienced in other states. And I was describing the community perspective that I was hearing to Associate Superintendent Osborne after the fact as great, different, unexpected. I just hope that we have a lot more chance for dialogue in our upcoming meetings. It was great. I'm so happy to be a part of that group. And I will continue here quickly. I know I've been talking a while already. We're just a day away from a well-deserved break. Trying to pause and reflect on people and things that I'm thankful for. Hopefully you'll do the same. Saying it out loud often makes those you're thinking of feel really amazing. And I've been trying to do that every month, but I think this month it's so broad for me. So many people falling into these categories. I'm going to go with a broader thankfulness here for our community. I'm really grateful for the support that you've shown our governance team here. We had a few tense minutes here and there tonight, but the community has really by and large shown all of us a lot of support, and me personally, in the face of some challenging conditions that we've been facing. So I fully understand, obviously, that our community is not unanimous in supporting every district action, every board action, but I do appreciate the respect for the law that most have shown. Civil discourse is that bedrock of democracy. We hear that all the time, but I really thank most of you for respecting that. To our staff, you never stop. You're as much in need of this break as anyone, but you're still running on overdrive. And we heard this in some public comments tonight from our staff. You're making sure that our students have everything they need no matter what. As Ms. Nunes in particular shared, we have too many vacancies and not enough substitutes. And this is in so many job categories. We're working on it. We're doing what we can. But I appreciate all of you so much for making do with what we have right now. We're working hard, and we know you're working even harder. So thank you. None of this happens without you. And lastly, to students, your talents and interests and curiosity are absolutely boundless. I love it. Ever since PUSD's big Innovation and Education Award, I've been thinking about something that one of the speakers said. And at the event, he asked the audience, what do you do when you don't know what to do? I loved that. It stuck with me. I've been thinking about it. Our students are creative problem solvers. They're not afraid to ask questions when they get stuck, but they're really also not afraid to forge their own paths and create their own solutions. Check PUSD social media platforms if you want to see the endless examples of what our students are doing. These are amazing kids. I just suggest that next time that you happen to see a kid, watching a kid get stuck, don't hurry to jump in for the rescue. Just watch what happens next. And thanks for hanging in with us there tonight. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you so much. Dr. Patel.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thanks for sticking it out until our board reports. I remember when I first joined the school board, they used to be at the top of the meeting, and now we do have to wait till the very end. Over the past month, I've spent a significant portion of my time serving our school district. I won't go into details on every single opportunity, but I would like to highlight a few tonight. In the district, as a trustee, I was invited to several school sites to welcome dignitaries and commemorate meaningful beginnings. At Tierra Bonita, we celebrated the inception of the Japanese language program for our elementary school students through a partnership with the Japanese consulate. A couple of our other board members did touch on that. We're excited that they're also supporting an after-school Japanese language program at Del Sur Elementary School. We see the fruits of the new global languages department really showing up and feeding our students. And we're excited to see what's to come. We also welcome dignitaries representing the Republic of Korea and Foundation for Korea Language and Culture in the USA, Design 39 in Del Norte High School to explore rekindling a partnership to bring Korean language instruction. These are all very exciting opportunities for our students, and we hope to keep expanding these opportunities to acquire world languages for our students. I thoroughly enjoyed my opportunity to represent my alma mater at the PUSD College and Career Fair in the myths and misconceptions of attending private colleges and universities session. I loved being able to answer questions of our students directly. Similarly, with Westview High School PTA, I helped coordinate the Career Connection session on the topic of careers in health and medicine. These are amazing opportunities to help our students explore different career opportunities and pathways while speaking directly with people in those professions. They get some pretty insightful tips and tricks on what they might want to consider on their journey. Also at the district level, I gave the board report at Palomar Council PTSA, where I updated the leaders on topics such as vaccinations, electric buses, which I'm very excited about, redistricting timeline, our equity and inclusion work, as well as boardsmanship. I'm thankful to Heather Plotsky for inviting me to my first CAC meeting. I value all the time and dedication our parents give to our school community to ensure the inclusion of all of our students in our programs. I know this is a very heavy lift. It's a serious endeavor, and I appreciate that our parents are there with us, guiding us and making sure we know where our holes are to help us fill them. We had our first Equity and Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting this month as well, as Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe touched on. During the meeting, we were briefed by staff on our purpose and goals of our committee, and we had the opportunity to go into breakout sessions to discuss our priorities before presenting them out to the wider group. I'm looking forward to the role this district-wide committee will take, as well as all of the individual school site committees, because that work is still ongoing. And I'm excited to see how they will help build more equitable and inclusive learning environments for our children. On the SD-CSBA front, things have also been very busy. We organized a webinar co-hosted by the San Diego County Office of Education with Lozano Smith to help our fellow trustees throughout the county with managing orderly board meetings. Additionally, we are planning our countywide Honoring Our Own in-person event scheduled for May 7th, 2022. This will be our 20th anniversary event in partnership with AXA Region 18 to recognize the outstanding work of our education leaders and partners throughout the county. Our Cal SSD meeting in October covered a lot of ground as well, including updates on recently signed legislation impacting public education, state budget outlook, as well as our legislative priorities for the next session, including staffing shortages, which are going on across the state, increasing base funding, which is a high priority for all of our school districts, as well as policies regarding special education programs and funding. Before I close, I want to acknowledge that our district has engaged in some really challenging and impactful work on behalf of our over 35,600 students. We've got some significant challenges ahead too, such as addressing our infrastructure needs, transitioning to this new bell schedule based on state requirements, staffing shortages, and managing the fallout from manufactured crises and disinformation being spread by a handful of disingenuous people. I ask that our community not be distracted by this hyperbole, but instead engage with us on all of our real challenges that we're going through and help us to build all the solutions we need to overcome those challenges. And with that, I close my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. Mr. Zane.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Patel, I almost forgot about the CSBA webinar on board meetings. Three brief things, very brief before I give some Thanksgiving wishes. First of all, on November 4th, I was happy to attend with Mr. Mizell and Cindy Hicks, the 2021 School Safety Summit hosted by the San Diego County District Attorney and in partnership with the County Office of Education. The summit addressed threats of violence targeting San Diego County schools. Key findings regarding threat assessment and prevention were presented by the National Threat Assessment Center, along with the release of an updated edition of the San Diego County School Threat Protocol. I believe, and I think others that were in attendance would agree, that the goal of the summit to update our collective knowledge on best practices to keep students and schools safe was met. And it's a really enjoyable seminar that both the DA's office and the County Office of Education puts on. It was a pleasure to join Dr. Phelps yesterday. I believe it was just yesterday. The days are merging into one. On the Zoom call meeting for the Livenhain Municipal Water District. Now, who wouldn't want to be on a Zoom call of the Livenhain Municipal Water District to watch our PUSD's grounds department and Supervisor Jerry Owens, ground supervisor Jerry Owens, receive the 2021 Livenhain Municipal Water District Customer of the Year for recycled water and all the great work, groundbreaking work that the grounds department at PUSD is doing. Lastly, and kind of leading into what well wishes for Thanksgiving, I think as could be evidenced even just in this meeting alone, there will be differences of opinion, but we respect each other's differences of opinion, and we move forward cordially and respectfully. We pray and hope that the broader community at large would adhere to, frankly, kind of how what we're doing here. We have disagreements. We don't always, vote 5-0 on things, but we move forward in a respectful way. There's been a lot of dialogue lately. We had 8 speakers this evening and some folks out front, all with varying differences of opinions on issues surrounding ethnic studies, ethnic literature, CRT. We have to be mindful of the fact to be respectful of all those points of view. I think that the dialogue ought to continue. We ought to find ways for parents to engage more. Just within the past couple of months, we've talked about the great things that come out of parental involvement in the district. Specifically, we talked about what great things have happened within the district with regard to dyslexia and improvements in that area within PUSD. So I think that there'll be opportunities in the future. I think the dialogue ought to continue on all these fronts and allow more opportunities for parental engagement. And lastly, I'll just wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving and hope that there is not as much discord around your Thanksgiving dinner table as we've seen around the school district lately. And please be thankful for everything that you have, your family, your loved ones, the roof over your head. We have much to be thankful for, and wish everybody a very restful week ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Zane. Also, my board report off by just telling those who didn't get a chance to speak today or who wanted to speak and didn't, please email. There's so many different ways for you to get in contact with us. Don't feel that that's the one opportunity. So please know that we're accessible and we care and we want to hear your voices and we read them. So I wanted to make that point. I also enjoyed Tierra Bonita. It's very exciting to see how we're expanding the global languages, that there's no better way to learn about a culture than by learning its language. And as we try to have our, we strive to be world-class learners, I just think that's a fantastic initiative that we're taking. Also, as we were talking about the PTSA at Tierra Bonita earning the School of Excellence, they got this award for their superior communication during COVID. They were very creative in being able to keep everyone connected during the COVID times when kids were on campus. And that's a really special thing that they really reached out and did. And I was so happy to see them, celebrated for doing that exceptional work. I was able to go to the Poway High School Mount Carmel Kiwanis Cup game. And for those of you who haven't been to a football game this year, you realize just how much our kids missed last year. So the whole game, Mount Carmel was up 7-0. Sorry, little commentary here. The last 10 seconds, Poway High scores and ties the game. There's 4 overtimes. It goes back and forth and back and forth. Mount Carmel wins it. It took us an hour to get off the field because no one wanted to leave. I had this big linebacker holding the Kiwanis Cup saying, give me a minute, I need to cherish it. I mean, these kids, the photos everywhere, that elation that only comes from events like that, being at sports, being at putting on a play. The kids really missed out during COVID. These are just exceptional emotions that you only get in environments like that. So it was just one of those eye-opening moments that I'm so glad we're back in so many ways, because I still get goosebumps talking about it. And it was just an amazing night, and I just celebrate with them. I hope everyone had a fun Halloween. I loved watching all the little kids dress up, and it's my favorite holiday. So obviously I was enjoying seeing all the little Halloween carnivals out there and all the adorable goblins and witches and all that good stuff. Chaparral gave me my Thanksgiving present early. So for the past 12 years, I helped them do a project where every classroom adopts a family, and I give them boxes, and I punch out leaves for all the kids to decorate. And last year we couldn't do it, so we did a very wonderful food drive, but this year we did it. And to tell you just how generous our Chaparral families were, we filled 36 baskets and raised $1,700. So we donated 32 baskets with $40 gift certificates to the Head Start program next to Valley Elementary School. And we gave 4 baskets to Chaparral with $100 gift certificates. So why we changed from doing a food bank to that is that, the kids are bringing in the marshmallows they signed up for. They're bringing in the $5 towards a turkey. And it just gives so much more meaning. And they wrote little Thanksgiving messages on the leaves. So anyway, even though I graduated there from a long time ago, I'm so thankful they let me come and do this project, because they're just amazing and gets me in that giving spirit. So hopefully for you all, you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and do one good deed. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the December meeting. Dr. Phelps, you're up.
Thank you, Madam President. We have some recognitions to report, including 3 of our PUSD students being named among the top 25 most remarkable teams in San Diego. Congratulations to Rowan Bosworth from Poway, who won in the technology category, Kara Fan from Westview, who won in the innovators category, and Flora Yuan from Del Norte, who won in the music vocalist category. They were honored in a ceremony at downtown San Diego Central Library last week. I want to also mention 2 other remarkable young women. Ellen Zhu from Del Norte High School was named Global Rise winner for her research on Kawasaki's disease after her younger sister was initially misdiagnosed. She's developing an artificial intelligence algorithm to help doctors diagnose the disease as part of the RISE program. She'll be provided with access to a lifetime of benefits such as scholarships, funding opportunities, technology, mentoring, and career development. And Madeline Nguyen from Poway High was named one of the only 6 students worldwide as a recipient of the Society of Women Engineers Global Innovator Award and Scholarship for her efforts to champion diversity in STEM. Congratulations to all, and please look at the board packet for full descriptions in 12.2. I also want to take this time to congratulate our very own Christine Pegg, our Chief Communication Officer, who just returned from Fresno, where she was inducted into the Fresno University's Hall of Fame. She received her master's degree there 15 years ago and was a lecturer while she was a TV anchor and reporter, and they honored her for her 20+ years of an award-winning career and her many contributions to journalism and school communications. We are so proud of her and the work that she does. This month, our Studio 701 interns are highlighting the opening of the new Japanese language and culture program as we continue to expand foreign languages throughout our schools in PUSD. Take a look.
Do we have it?
There's supposed to be a video. Jennifer?
I have not received a video for this.
That you, Chuck?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm pretty sure
Do you
emailed
have
the
it?
link. I can play it. Hang on.
Okay.
Share. Two.
Learning to count in Japanese is as easy as... These students in Ms. Kihara's class at Terra Bonita Elementary School are starting with their numbers and greetings.
They talk in Japanese like hello, goodbye, thank you. So that is my most precious feedback.
Twice a week, the students get to immerse themselves in Japanese culture and language as part of the new FLES, or Foreign Language in Elementary School program. After only a month of classes, students are eager to show off what they've been learning.
You get to learn different stuff in Japanese, different types of words and numbers. I'd probably use it if I ever meet someone who speaks Japanese, because then I can meet them and be able to talk to them.
PUSD held a check ceremony to celebrate their partnership.
So we're really fortunate because we're working with the Japan Foundation and the Yokohama Sister City Society, as well as the Japanese Consulate General's office. And we've been working to make sure that we give kids a really unique opportunity to be introduced to a different place in the world.
To immerse different culture at a young age is very, very important for children to open their mind.
The program aims to help children grow into adults who not only have a positive impact on their community, but are also competitive globally.
Not only will our students be viable and be marketable locally, statewide, nationally, they will be very much in need globally.
We're the only country in the world that doesn't require students to learn a second language. And so my personal goal is to ensure that we provide those opportunities for all of our kids in Poway Unified.
Back in the classroom, the hands-on activities keep the students engaged and excited to take their knowledge home.
They come home every day so excited to tell me what they learned. And I did a little bit of Japanese when I was younger, so they're telling me the things that I already know, and it's super fun to chat with them.
This is just the beginning. We want to see every school in Poway Unified School District give all of our students this opportunity to grow as humans so that when they walk the world that they live in, they look at each other with respect.
For the Excellence in Education series, I'm Skylar Hutchin, Studio 701.
What a wonderful, fantastic partnership. We are so grateful for the generous funding and the hard work Mr. Eddie Park, our Director of Global Languages, and the school site principals in making this program happen. And great job to our interns. What a beautiful piece once again. Recently, I wrote about having gratitude in this season of Thanksgiving. It seems to be in short supply lately, so I wanted to read some excerpts from my article that was printed in the Union Tribune. Thanksgiving is a season for practicing gratitude, yet gratitude and grace seems to be in short supply lately. The default response among adults is to complain and publicize their discontent on social media, rather than problem solving or reaching out to the people involved with empathy, understanding, and grace. Earlier standards of decency and civility don't seem to apply anymore. As people emerge from their COVID bubbles, frustration and anger are quick to surface whenever something doesn't go our way. Have you ever heard of the saying, don't make a mountain out of a molehill? Daily inconveniences will happen, like someone cutting you off or taking your parking space, a store running out of your favorite item, or a long wait for food at your neighborhood restaurant. But before lashing out in anger or airing your grievances on social media, have you stopped to consider that the other driver might be late for a crucial job interview after being unemployed for months, or that the store owner is struggling with supply chain issues, or the restaurant is extremely short-staffed due to COVID-related hiring challenges? The world just does not snap back to normal overnight after a global pandemic. We have all been affected. But let's be grateful for the things that we once took for granted, like in-person gatherings and celebrating the holidays that are possible once again. Gratitude does not mean pretending everything is fine or being in denial about what is going wrong, but choosing gratitude allows you to focus on what you appreciate instead of allowing negative and pessimistic thoughts to take up all of your time and effort. As Oprah Winfrey once said, Be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough. I want to wish all of our students, families, and staff a very restful, safe, and wonderful Thanksgiving break. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. And on that note, we are at number 14, adjournment and next meeting. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held virtually on Thursday, December 16th, 2021 at 6 o'clock. Have a happy Thanksgiving. The time is 9:39.